Chapter 301 Wallace. Especially within the Alliance, there are rumors that Sydney Elite intends to accept Hayu as his apprentice. If you think about it carefully, this is not surprising. Both are trainers specializing in evil attributes, and Sydney Elite has twice supported Hayu at the Alliance meeting. When he was promoted to the third level of authority, he went all in and cast all his votes for Hayu. It can't help but make some people in the Alliance imagine. After all, so far, whether it is Bonnie, Drake, or Sydney, the three elites have not accepted any apprentices. If the rumors are true, then Hayu will become the first case in the Hone Alliance. Haha, Stephen, I miss you so much after not seeing you for a few days. Hayu went up and gave him a hug, then looked at the boys and girls behind Stephen. Some of them were very happy with Hayu, some showed a kind smile, while others had a completely cold face, as if they were particularly repulsed by Hayu, a guy who was not from the family. Hayu didn't care, and talked and laughed with Stephen. If it's not your circle, don't force it. He always believed in this sentence. Half an hour later, a total of 16 helicopters landed on the roof of the Alliance building. If I guessed correctly, the 16 boys and girls should be the owners of the third-level authority promotion this time. Hayu really saw a lot of familiar people in his past life, such as the coordination trainer Wallace. However, Wallace didn't seem to be Stephen's friend now, and they didn't even know each other well. Stephen noticed that Hayu didn't seem to be familiar with the information of this group of people, so he introduced them to Hayu one by one. That person is Wallace, from Pseudo-Polly's family. His master is Pseudo-Polly's gym leader Adam. At the same time, Wallace is also a coordination trainer, and the entire Grand Prix organization is behind him. Tisk tisk tisk, the Hone Alliance has really spent a lot of money to win over the three forces behind Wallace, and a coordination trainer can be promoted to level 3 authority. Stephen said in amazement. After all, before everyone has shown their strength, anyone will doubt whether a coordination trainer of the Grand Prix really understands Pokemon battles? Is he really qualified to be ranked at level 3 authority with them? Hey, who are those two brats? Hayu looked at a pair of twins who looked similar and asked curiously. You know, Hayu was 17 years old, which was considered young in a group of people, and he called them little brats, which meant they were even younger. And the fact was indeed so. The two children in blue pajamas looked about 10 years old. Stephen followed Hayu's gaze and suddenly realized, that's Xiao Feng and Xiao Nan, from a psychic elite family called Xinling, and their family has been in charge of the psychic gym in Moss Deep City for generations. It is said that they are a pair of twin siblings, who can communicate with each other. It is said that they can rely on the powerful psychic to directly spy on other people's thoughts, which is extremely terrifying. Psychics are divided into natural psychics and acquired psychics. The most famous one is Sabrina from the Kanto region, who is an extremely powerful natural psychic. And the brother and sister in front of them are obviously the same. Just as Stephen and Hayu were whispering, the twin brother and sister's eyes flashed pink, as if they sensed something. The younger brother launched psychic and attacked Stephen and Hayu. Metang. Metang broke free from the pokeball and used psychic to directly block the Sice Hawk. Hayu also took a fighting stance and released Crawdaunt. The scene was tense for a while, and everyone around looked at him curiously. At this time, the older sister of the twins suddenly stood up and said, Xiao Feng, didn't I tell you not to use psychic to test others at will? Do you think this is a family? You can do whatever you want. The twin brother Xiao Feng, who cast psychic, shrank his head when he heard his sister's scolding, and hid in the corner in fear. After Xionan glared at his brother, he stepped forward and bowed to Hayu and Stephen, saying, Sorry, my brother has never been far away before, so he doesn't know much about the outside world. He was spoiled in the family before. Hayu and Stephen looked at each other calmly, and silently retreated without accepting each other's apology. The invisible psychic impact just now, if without Metang to resist, the two would be seriously injured even if they didn't die. Stephen took back Metang unhappily, and Hei snorted coldly, while the other people who formed small groups around him also watched all this with interest. Although the 16 boys and girls were not familiar with each other, they had already formed small groups. Stephen and Hei were obviously together. That's Sasaki Fusang, from the Sasaki family. You should have heard of this family. It spans several regions of the Pokemon League and is extremely powerful. It belongs to the same clan as us. The same level as the Stone family. This Fusang is said to be a master of fighting attributes, and he achieved a good result of top 3 in the P1 Fighting League competition. Stephen introduced them one by one, and Hei also chatted casually until the sun was about to set, and everyone present was a little impatient to wait. Finally, several league staff came to notify. The entire building is the league headquarters. Many people came to this place for the first time. During this period, they met many high-level people of the home league. After everyone was taken to a conference room, they were taken to sit in the designated seats, which were in the corner of the entire conference room against the wall. There were rows of chairs horizontally, just like seats for spectators. As they sat down one after another, heavyweights came into the conference room. "Hey, Stephen, what is the name of the president of the home league?" Hei felt a little strange when he heard everyone who came in called him "Hello, President" instead of calling him by name. Stephen turned his head away and explained in a low voice, "Actually, I don't know the name of the president either. This is also a measure taken to protect important figures in the alliance, to prevent those members of the dark organization who commit crimes from using the name to rob their family members." After listening to Stephen's explanation, Hei nodded in understanding. Not only people like the region president, but also some people who often walk in the battlefield, investigators who fight crime on the front line. After all, they are the ones that the dark organizations hate the most. Almost every investigator will not reveal his name, but will only give himself a code name. For example, the code name of the famous senior investigator Yulong Lands/Crossing is Yulong Envoy. Of course, normal people can tell that such a fancy nickname must come from the Yulong family. It is estimated that no dark organization dares to revenge. Chapter 302 Factional Showdown. Big figures entered the meeting room one after another, and the 16 juniors including Hei stood up and bowed from time to time to show respect. Observing the seating of each big figure, you can know the status of some people in the alliance. The one sitting in the main seat is naturally the president of the Hone Alliance, and the first seats on the left and right sides of the conference table are naturally the 2 vice presidents. And the next 3 are Stephen's father, the patriarch of the Stone family. Devon, the chairman of the corporation, sat in the second position after the vice president. "Senior Andre?" Another group of big shots came in, and Hei saw a familiar figure among them and exclaimed. It was the senior breeder, Andre. However, in such a formal occasion, Hei did not dare to call him old man as he did in private, but called him senior very respectfully. "Haha, see you again, Hei boy. When will the next batch of Qingyu Luyun be traded?" Andre was still like an old naughty boy, regardless of his status. He rushed directly in front of Hei and held Hei's hand tightly. Stephen and Wallace, who were sitting on the left and right of Hei, were shocked. "Ahem, be careful of the impact, this is the highest conference room of the Hone Alliance." The president of the Hone Alliance knocked on the table and admonished Andre. After hearing this, Andre pouted stubbornly, but still followed the president's advice and sat in the second row on the left. It was also the position second only to the 2 vice presidents. Even according to the convention of respecting the left, he was half a level higher than Stephen's father. This is not only because of the high status of senior breeders, but also because Andre represents the entire breeder guild this time. Representatives of the Joy and Jenny families also took their seats one after another. As the sun never sets family in the alliance, they will naturally not be absent from such an important meeting. Then came the existing gym leaders in the alliance, including Kana's gym leader Du Wan, Chinjua gym leader Norman, Fuyan gym leader Yasha, Wyuda gym leader Brawley. After almost all the seats were filled, the meeting finally began. The four elites rarely attend such meetings. They usually listen remotely via video. After all, the 3-4 elites in the Hone Alliance so far are not very keen on power. Hey, you saw the last time in Team Drake Elite, who was seen in Rocket HQ, should be able to tell from the other party's video background that he is still drifting on the sea. Bonnie and Sydney also listened in separately, but did not turn on the video function. It is worth mentioning that after entering the conference room, gym leader Watson found an empty corner and sat down alone. Many people avoided him as if they were avoiding the plague. Watson also laughed disdainfully and stayed in the corner alone. If this meeting was not too important, he would not have come to participate. With his seniority, such qualifications, and his great contributions to the Alliance, who dares not give him 3 points of face? In fact, according to the plan made by the Hone Alliance, Watson was supposed to replace the last retired elite and become the Electric Elite. Unfortunately, due to the incident with Ray Cow a while ago, he offended many high-level members of the Alliance. This matter was gradually shelved. The Alliance also took a fancy to Norman, who is currently serving as the Orange Gym leader in Petalburg City. Norman's ability is enough to serve as the Elite Four, but unfortunately his qualifications are not enough. After all, he was only poached from Johto region by the vice president a year ago. After all, his contribution to the Hone Alliance is not much. At least he should be allowed to stay in the gym leader position for a few years, otherwise he will not be promoted to the Elite Four by force, and he will not be accepted by the public. This is probably the high-level structure of the entire Hone region. The meeting started after all the people arrived, and first dealt with some trivial matters. Last time, we targeted the Black Organization team. The encirclement and suppression of rockets went very smoothly. All the scattered members have been arrested. Archer, the leader, fled with a few confidants and returned to Kanto region like a lost dog. The first news was such exciting good news. Perhaps they wanted to show the strength of the Alliance. Anyway, it was a good start. President, don't worry. Our police department will do its best to conduct follow-up intelligence interrogation on Team Rocket's members and strive to continue digging deeper to ensure that the tentacles of the Black Forces will not corrupt the Hone Alliance. The representative of the Jenny family stood up and spoke with a sonorous voice. The representative of the investigator organization also patted his chest and promised, not only those foreign dark organizations, but also the local Black Forces in Hone region, we will also settle them one by one this year. The Hone Alliance Investigator Department has completed 7,296 tasks, and the number of tasks completed is as high as 87%. The casualty rate is 4% lower than last year. Thank you for the assistance of the Joy family. The investigator representative bowed to the representative of the Joy family. But everyone understands that this is just a show. The Joy family did bring a lot of medical resources to the investigator department. But they also planted a lot of people related to the Joy family in the investigator department. In this regard, the top leaders of the Alliance almost turned a blind eye. It's nothing else, the Joy and Jenny families are too special. There is no need for everyone to take action. The two departments of search and police are originally the territory of the Jenny family. Now your Joy family has actually reached out to the department related to the core interests of the Jenny family. It is really audacious. Therefore, the Jenny family will definitely counterattack in the future. As expected, after the Joy representative finished speaking, the Jenny representative stood up and first talked about the annual report of the police department. Last year, the police department received more than 90,000 reports and successfully solved more than 90,000 cases. This is exciting good news, but at the same time, there are also many police officers who died in the police department, and most of them did not receive timely treatment and caused casualties here. I want to condemn the medical department of the Alliance. Are they all just eating dry rice? They can't even guarantee the most basic treatment. Let us fight on the front line. How can the police officers feel at ease? As soon as Representative Jenny said this, Representative Joy's face instantly darkened. The younger brothers of each faction of the two sides also cheered in the back, and began to argue for Jenny or Joy. The two factions began to fight. Joy and Representative Jenny were not to be outdone, and they were no longer elegant and heroic in the past. Looking at the 16 juniors including Hayu in amazement, they really didn't expect that the seniors who were respected in their hearts in the past would actually show such an ugly appearance. Okay. The president roared. Looking at the scene that was gradually getting out of control, he said angrily, look at you, one is in charge of the Alliance Police, and the other is in charge of the Alliance Medical Care. It's just a joke for the juniors. What's the matter? One slammed the table, and the other took out pokeball. Why don't you just talk? Chapter 303 Evergrande City Conference. With the intervention of the president, the originally fierce quarrel cooled down instantly. You know, this president is not a simple person. He has reached the peak of power in the Hone Alliance at the age of 40. Not only is he good at talking and politics, but his own strength is also very strong. In addition to the duties of the president of the Hone Alliance, he also serves as the champion of the Hone region. Of course, this does not mean that he has the strength of the champion level, but he can command the Pokémon left by the past champions of the Hone Alliance. It is said that every generation of deceased champions will leave their own Pokémon in a mysterious secret realm. Relying on the long lifespan of champion-level Pokémon, it will escort every subsequent region chairman. The later regional chairman will be in charge of unified command. This is also to prevent the power of the regional chairman from being undermined by the four powerful elites below. Relying on the rich foundation left by the previous generations of champions, the chairman has the final say in Hone region. Except for the four elite positions and the two vice-chairmen, who can slightly check and balance, the rest of the people can hardly disobey. Okay, let's continue to discuss the Evergrande City Conference. In half a year the meeting went on as expected, and even the juniors who were listening on the side, including Hayu, pricked up their ears and listened carefully. In fact, the main discussion was about Evergrande, the situation of the city conference. As a regional competition covering participants from all regions, its importance is self-evident. The security of the conference, the contestant village, and the competition site are all fully prepared, and the drills for emergencies have been conducted countless times. There will not be any mistakes, please rest assured. Representative Jenny stood up and said coldly. Considering that the scale of this conference is unprecedented, we have specially allocated an elite-level healing Pokémon to ensure that no injuries will affect the contestants' competition. The representative of the Joy family said, not to be outdone. The venue has been arranged. The four attribute venues of water, lawn, rock, and sand and the main function venue of the finals have all been inspected and all referees are in place. The president of the Referee Association repeated the same words 3 years ago. It's just that the venue 3 years ago was in Unova, and this time it was in Hone. After all the issues were discussed, the eyes of the big guys were cast on the younger generation who were listening on the side. Everyone was staring at them and felt uncomfortable. It was obvious that the success of this conference would ultimately depend on the rankings they achieved. If, like the conference held in Unova region 3 years ago, all the top 4 seats were taken by outsiders, it would be a laughing stock. It was really embarrassing. Don't be stressed, little kids. Lance is over 25 years old this year and can't sign up. Don't worry about the scene of the Sinnoh region conference 6 years ago repeating. The president said softly, and everyone was relieved. Lance, a mountain on the backs of all the young generation. 6 years ago, at the Sinnoh region conference, he relied on a quasi-elite Dragonite to fight all the way from the preliminary round to the champion. Even in the finals, he did not release a second Pokémon against another quasi-elite trainer. He defeated 6 with a single Dragonite. Even when he was giving his acceptance speech, he said, Sinnoh region doesn't have anyone who can fight. It can be said that he was rubbing Sinnoh region's face on the ground. If Lance still participates in this Evergrande City Conference, then the rest of the contestants will have no chance to fight. 6 years have passed, and the last champion Lance has already inherited the Yulong family, and his strength has improved rapidly. He has already started the champion challenge. Although Lance is only 26 years old this year, many of the older generations in the alliance no longer regard him as a junior. After listening to this, the younger generations such as Heiyu nodded repeatedly. If Lance/Crossing participates, then the champion will be directly reserved. Don't be discouraged. When Pokemon reaches a certain level, the speed of improvement will slow down, and then it will be your chance to catch up. Steven's father, Master Stone Joseph Zi, spoke. Heiyu secretly affirmed in his heart that Lance's current strength should be at the peak of the elite. In the future, he should be stuck at the champion bottleneck for a long time. Then it will be the time for the younger generation such as Heiyu and Steven to catch up. But in addition to Lance, there are several contestants who are listed to pay special attention to. Cynthia, a talented girl from Sinnoh region. Yulong Tsubaki, a direct member of the Yulong family and also the cousin of Yulong Lance/Crossing. Heiyu also saw Flint, the future Sinnoh region's fourth elite of the fire system, and Suni Shore, the future Sinnoh region city gym leader. In addition, there are many strong young trainers participating in the Johto, Unova, and Kalos regions. Kuroyu can see that the purpose of this meeting is mainly to analyze the opponents they may encounter in the future. No matter what, at least one of the top 3 seats must be occupied. The president issued the final request. After all, it can't be like Unova region 3 years ago, where a home run was made, right? After hearing this goal, everyone's expressions were different. Kuroyu looked indifferent. Anyway, he was not panicked at all with Steven in front of him. Steven also looked indifferent, and was even thinking about where to dig stones later. In his opinion, Kuroyu was so calm and obviously full of confidence. Then why should he panic? With Heiyu in the front. If Heiyu knew Steven's idea, he would definitely spit blood on his face. It turns out that both of them think that the other party is fine, so they don't care either. Wallace, who was sitting in the corner, looked like he had no desire to live. He really didn't care about the battle. He just wanted to concentrate on coordinating the training of trainers. If it weren't for the old men in the organizing committee of the gorgeous competition who insisted on pushing him to participate, Wallace would not have engaged in such a rude battle. The participants this time covered all regions in the Pokemon world, and the publicity efforts were almost unprecedented. Even the rewards were extremely generous. As long as you can enter the top 64, you can get a lot of Alliance points rewards. Even the top 8 have the opportunity to get the elite potential Pokemon eggs rewarded by the Alliance. Under the motivation of such generous rewards, the little guys will surely go all out, right? The president thought in his heart. Looking at the 16 little guys who wanted to listen on the side, they nodded with satisfaction in their hearts. They are the future of their own alliance. The meeting continued. Then came the introduction of the competition rules, which sounded very complicated. There was no limit on the number of participants, as long as you can register with 8 badges. In this case, there will definitely be a lot of participants, so there will be a preliminary round first, and 128 strong players will be selected through quick duels. Then the main competition and finals will be held. Chapter 304 Mission. Of course, in order to avoid some embarrassing situations, the 16 pre-selected players will not meet in advance in the initial preliminary round. Of course, if you are careless, you may be eliminated by those trainers who collect badges to register for the competition. After all, some people will be too confident and only send out the second-tier Pokemon, and since the preliminaries are a one-on-one competition system, of course, the opponent will go all out and send out the strongest Pokemon, and the opponent happens to restrain you. If this happens, being eliminated can only be said to be deserved. Of course, as long as 128 contestants are selected, this situation will not happen in the main competition. By then, there will still be a certain margin of error in a 3-on-3 match. After discussing all this, the meeting was supposed to end, but the big guys present stared at the little guys like hey you with a half smile. Haha, there is still half a year before the conference starts. You have to speed up your growth. We old guys have specially formulated some tasks for you. Come on, come forward and receive them one by one. As he spoke, 16 special electronic watches appeared on the table, with the pattern of the Alliance printed on the back. Hey, you recognized it at a glance. Isn't this the Pokemon Navigator developed by Devon Corporation? Pokemon Navigator, it is said that it can be used in any harsh environment, whether it is a forest, ocean, or even a volcano, even if there is no signal. It has appeared in Chapter 63. Every watch has a name written on it. Hey, you found the one with his name engraved on it and put it on his hand. There is a positioning system installed on it. Once you encounter danger during the mission, you can apply for the Rescue Alliance, and the Alliance will quickly send a team to support you. Although it is said, most people don't take it to heart. After all, almost all of them come from big families, how could they not have a few life-saving cards? Even Hayu has a protective Pokemon given by the Joy family, let alone others. After the meeting, the people present left one after another. Come on, Hayu, let's go to the restaurant to eat together, let's get to know each other. Stephen invited the people who were selected this time to go to the restaurant to eat together. After all, it won't be long before they will meet at the Evergrande City Conference. And those who were called to attend this meeting and were present with Level 3 authority are almost all the top young generation in Hone region. Getting to know each other can also be regarded as expanding personal connections. At least make a nodding acquaintance to prevent embarrassment next time. The official restaurant in the Alliance headquarters building is really good, all kinds of ingredients are top-notch, and everyone sits in a box. Stephen is on Hayu's left and Wallace is on his right. Only then did someone have time to check the tasks posted on the watch. Go to Rustboro. There is a mysterious psychic quasi-elite Pokemon in the mines outside the city, which has a great impact on the ecological environment. Please explore and expel it to protect the safety of the Aran tribe in the mines. Stephen read it out word by word, and then exclaimed, "My goodness, isn't this mine my family's property? Dad mentioned this to me before, hiss. This mission is not issued by Dad, right?" Others also began to check their own tasks on the navigation watch. Wallace's task is to hunt down a desperado who stole the treasure prism scale of Pseudo-Polly's gym. Pseudo-Polly's gym, isn't this the teacher's gym? Wallace exclaimed with a look of surprise. Everyone discovered an amazing fact. That is, the tasks are more or less related to the forces behind them, and they all speculated that the person who issued the task might be the family force behind them. Hayu became interested. He is not from a family. I don't know what task the Alliance will give him. Go to MT Pyre, clean up the ghost Pokemon floating outside. Hayu raised his eyes and stopped at the 3 words MT Pyre. Whether it was the memory of the previous life or the legend of MT Pyre in the Pokemon world, Hayu was familiar with it. MT Pyre is similar to the Pokemon Tower in Kanto region, the Lost Tower in Sinnoh region, and the Celestial Tower in Unova region. They are all places where the souls of dead Pokemon are placed. Therefore, the resentment and death there are extremely heavy, and it is very easy to gather a large number of ghost attribute Pokemon. After Stephen learned about Hayu's mission, he also appropriately popularized the science on the side, and at the same time looked at Hayu with sympathy. Ghost attribute Pokemon has always been known for being weird and difficult to deal with. And in a place as big as MT Pyre, there must be a lot of ghost attribute Pokemon gathered, hundreds or thousands of them must be there. This is an extremely tedious and dangerous task. Wallace came over, as if trying to fit in with Stephen and Hayu's group, and said, "No, just like this. A large number of Pokemon killed in the Hone Alliance are buried there. Be careful when fighting and don't destroy their tombstones." Hayu looked at the heads coming from the left and right and sighed in his heart. This is the disadvantage of not having a family to take care of you. Others can complete the tasks issued by their own forces comfortably, but you can only do such hard work. But Yu didn't complain. Or maybe he expected this to happen. After all, his Pokemon team is all dark, which naturally restrains the ghost type. After the dinner, everyone left, and some impatient people even set out to perform the task on the spot. Steven didn't leave in a hurry. He was excited and took a shovel and went straight to Evergrande mine on the outskirts of the city. Yu did not leave immediately, not because he did not want to, but he was suddenly called back to the meeting room by the president of the Hone Alliance. Looking at the president who was still sitting in the main seat of the meeting room, Yu first greeted him, and then asked, "Hello, President, I wonder why the president asked me to come here." The president did not rush to talk, but slowly brewed a cup of hot tea and slowly pushed it to Yu. "I issued your task to clean up the ghost Pokemon of MT Pyre." The president's words were shocking. Yu was stunned at first, and then said, "I don't know if the president has any additional instructions." As a member of the Hone Alliance, Yu will do his best. The president stroked his mustache and smiled knowingly. "During this mission, I need you to enter MT Pyre, give this letter to the 2 seniors who live in seclusion there." As he said, the president took out an ordinary letter. Yu's eyes condensed, and when he took the letter, he found that it was not as simple as it seemed. This letter seemed to have been imposed with some kind of imprison by a psychic Pokemon, and it was difficult to open. "President, rest assured, Yu will live up to your expectations," Yu said seriously. "This is an extra secret task I gave you. I will thank you after you complete it, but remember, don't leak it." The president gave a stern warning. Chapter 305 MT Pyre. A senior who lives in seclusion in MT Pyre? It's interesting that the president of a region calls him a senior. It's really interesting. Yu also understood the whole story. Asking him to clean up the ghost Pokemon around MT Pyre was just a cover-up. The real purpose was to pass on the content of the letter. After all, as the president of the Hone Alliance, his every move affected the hearts and minds of countless people. It would be difficult for him and his subordinates to complete this task quietly. Should he just leave it to an outsider like Yu? But he really trusted himself. Yu respectfully put the letter into the space ring, and then slowly walked out of the door. "Yu!" A call came from the side of the door. Yu looked closely and saw that it seemed to be an assistant beside the president. He didn't dare to neglect it and saluted hurriedly. "A 7th-rank official in front of the Prime Minister's door. This is the MT Pyre map that the President asked me to give you. It has specially marked the tombstones of some important Pokemon. These Pokemon have made great contributions to the Alliance during their lifetime. Please don't disturb their sleep." Yu took the MT Pyre map. It must be said that the President's consideration was indeed careful. With this precise map, the danger can be greatly reduced. Without staying for long, he directly used one of the benefits of the 3rd-level authority and took the Alliance's helicopter to MT Pyre. On the 122 waterway, MT Pyre stands beside. This is a sacred mountain that is extremely famous in the entire Hone region, because it houses the remains and skeletons of countless Pokemon. As a result, the ghost energy here is extremely strong, and a large amount of dead air and resentment gather. It attracts most of the ghost Pokemon to wander here. Within dozens of miles of Hone, there is almost a gloomy feeling. There is no trace of any human habitation. Of course, occasionally there will be some trainers who are good at ghost attributes to train Pokemon here. After all, the environment here is really unique for ghost attribute Pokemon. Most people will only wander around the periphery and will not set foot in the interior of MT Pyre, because although the ghost energy here is strong, staying here for a long time will have a certain impact on the human body. Continue to go in, at MT. The core area of Pyre. There is a lot of pure ghost energy there. Once absorbed by someone, they may even explode and die. Even if they die, they will not be able to rest in peace. They may become wandering ghosts. Over time, the interior of MT Pyre has become a forbidden area, even the number of people outside gradually decreased. Woo-woo in the forest at the foot of Pyre. It's getting late, it seems we can only stay in the suburbs for one night today. Kuroyu released Hankro to investigate, and Umbreon stayed by his side to guard. The night environment has a certain strengthening effect on ghost attribute Pokemon, so Kuroyu naturally has to avoid its edge. And the ghost attribute attack can be almost silent in the night environment. Kuroyu doesn't want to be killed by the ghost attribute skill in the dark. Just when Kuroyu was looking for a place to set up camp, a large number of Zubat and Golbat appeared in the sky. And they kept hovering in the sky near Kuroyu, staring at him, unwilling to leave for a long time, but because of the power of Hankro and Umbreon, they didn't dare to get close. Originally, Kuroyu didn't want to pay attention, and he still had to find a place to set up camp. And I thought this Golbat group would disperse soon, but things didn't go as Heiyu expected. More and more Golbats and Zubats gathered here. Heiyu frowned and covered his ears at the same time. This annoying sound wave is endless. Hankro, a group that comes to increase the perception of overconfidence, use it to your heart's content. Ga. Hankro screamed excitedly. It's been a while since I slaughtered a Pokemon group like this, especially after taking the calming potion prepared by Andre. It's been a while since I've been able to hold it back. Looking at the countless Zubats and Golbats around, Hankro felt that the fighting blood in his body was gradually boiling. A dark pulse directly attacked the leading Golbat. Boom! As a skill learned a long time ago and also a characteristic of his own system, Hankro naturally uses it easily and releases it extremely quickly. The black wings quickly vibrated, and he dived directly into the hundreds of tribes. At the same time, during the flight, Tailwind naturally performed. Night Slash began to accumulate power, and the white flying energy on the wings and the dark brown malignant energy intertwined. Under the illumination of the night, it looked deep and domineering. Like a tiger entering a flock of sheep, Hankro rushed into the Golbat tribe. Night Slash continued to slash, and a steady stream of Zubats fell from the sky to the ground. Although there were many Zubats, they were of extremely low levels and weak strength. None of them could stand up to Hankro. In less than half a minute, the entire tribe was defeated by Hankro, a Pokemon. With the overconfident Hankro, Pokemon of the same level would be scared just by looking at him. Even quasi-elite Pokemon had to be on high alert. Almost all Golbats and Zubats began to flee in all directions, so that the sky was in chaos. Of course, there were a few Golbats who were smarter and wanted to attack Kuroyu directly, but they were all repelled by the Umbreon guarding the side. Hankro, who attacked recklessly, constantly gave himself psychological hints of confidence, so that the attack power superimposed by the overconfidence characteristic was strengthened to the limit of what the body could present. Kuroyu watched from the side. He nodded repeatedly, not thinking that such wanton slaughter was a cruel act. Not bad, not bad. After such a battle tonight, I believe that I will have a deeper understanding of overconfidence. Under Heiyu's gaze, Hankro's momentum rose again. But this time it was no longer the accumulation of overconfidence, but his own level was raised by one level. Hankro reached level 44. The battle lasted for half an hour, and Heiyu was a little bored. When only a few high-level Golbats with strength above level 30 were left, they fled in all directions. Hankro wanted to continue chasing, but was called back by Heiyu. Forget it, it's getting late, let's set up camp first. Heiyu released a few Pokemon and asked them to collect the valuable body parts of the Golbats. Heiyu smiled and touched Hankro, who was a little reluctant, and said, "Don't worry, tomorrow's battle to clean up ghost Pokemon will definitely make you feel refreshed." Chapter 306 Dusk Ball. The next day, early in the morning, Heiyu got up early and first fed all Pokemon with advanced Poke Blocks according to the breeding plan. Here, this is your Krokorok, Barbarian Advanced Poke Blocks, Dark Attribute Advanced General Poke Blocks, Ground Attribute Advanced General Poke Blocks. Crawdaunt, your Abyss Advanced Poke Blocks, Water and Dark Advanced General Poke Blocks. Sharpedo, your Waves Premium Poke Blocks. Zorua, your Psychedelic Premium Poke Blocks. Honchkrow, your Dark Wings Premium Poke Blocks. Umbreon, your Nether Premium Poke Blocks. After Hayu distributed all the breakfasts, he started eating. All the Pokemon started eating with relish. All these premium poke blocks were purchased by Hayu from the old man Andre. It is also the most important part of the customized plan. Therefore, the breeding funds of Hayu almost soared several times. Not to mention, the monthly breeding funds for 6 Pokemon add up to 3 or 4 million. Alas, it's a good thing that we got on the big ship of the Alliance, otherwise we can't afford to support you money-eating beasts. Hayu started to fiddle with his food. A day's plan starts in the morning, so he naturally won't fool himself about breakfast. When he was poor on the pirate ship before, Hayu naturally didn't have so many requirements, as long as he could fill his stomach. But now we are rich. Although we won't be extravagant, we will definitely not treat ourselves badly in terms of food. In the past, we pursued quantity, but now we pursue quality. Fried Toro's meat, Shroomish vermicelli pot, steamed shelder, torchic chicken wings and pork rice. After a comfortable meal, Hayu officially headed to the outskirts of MT Pyre. Maybe because there were trainers in the outskirts, the levels of wild Pokemon were surprisingly low. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Hayu released Zorua to practice fighting. This wild ghost-type Pokemon is their best target. With the weirdness of the ghost type, it directly maximizes the dodge and speed, so that Zorua's skills often miss. Zorua concentrates before launching skills and observes the enemy keenly. However, this just meets Hayu's expectations and can train Zorua's skill hit rate. It must be said that MT Pyre does have a lot of ghost-type Pokemon. Even if it is just the number of ghost-type Pokemon in the outskirts, it almost accounts for more than 95%. Look, Zorua, with a stubborn face, is performing Dark Pulse, bombarding Shuppet, which was flickering and dodging like a ghost. Shuppet is grey and black with a sharp horn on its head. It has 2 big eyes on its head and no feet. It is rumored that Shuppet likes emotions such as spite or jealousy the most. They will feed on these 2 negative emotions. They are especially active at night and will wander around the streets, devouring human emotions with these 2 emotions. Hayu said the characteristics of this Pokemon with a serious face, making several Pokemons on the side look at each other in bewilderment. This is the first time they have faced the weirdness of ghost attribute Pokemon. Hayu said this to make Pokemon mentally prepared, otherwise, if they rashly face those high-level ghost attribute Pokemon, there will definitely be accidents. Hayu also checked the forum information of MT Pyre before coming. Many trainers' Pokemon have suffered from psychological disorders after coming here. Zorua, extrasensory. Zorua's short tail spun and swept, and an invisible force emerged. Shuppet, who was originally looming in the dark environment, was suddenly fixed, and his whole body was wrapped in pink light. Zorua's short tail lifted up, and Shuppet flew directly into the air. Zorua's short tail lifted down, and Shuppet was hit hard on the ground. Hayu nodded repeatedly. After this period of time, Zorua gradually understood how to fight on his own and would not completely rely on Hayu's command. Zorua is also making progress. Good, great job. Looking at Shuppet, who has lost his ability to fight, Hayu never hesitates to praise. Yo yo yo! Zorua jumped into Hayu's arms, clutching his clothes with a flattering expression. Hayu raised his hand and scratched Zorua's little nose, and said unhappily, "You little greedy fox, didn't you just have a chocolate bar for breakfast?" Thinking about it carefully, except for Sharpedo and Honchkrow, these 2 Pokemon make Hayu less worried, the rest of the Pokemon are all gluttons. Throwing out a Pokeball, the intermediate level Shuppet with a level of 27 was captured. Beep beep beep. Shuppet, a puppet Pokemon, will be attracted by the jealous feelings of spite. If someone's spite heart becomes stronger, Shuppets will be hung in a row under the eaves of that person's house. Attribute, Ghost, Level 27, Gender, Female, Characteristics, Curse Body, Height 0.6 meters, Weight 23 kilograms, Normal Development, Good Qualification. Mastered Moves, Knock Off, Screech, Nightshade, Spite, Shadow Sneak, Will-O-Wisp, Feint Attack, Hex, Spell, Shadow Ball. Inherited Moves, Imprison. Looking at the data displayed on the Pokemon Pokédex, Hayu had to sigh that it was really dirty. Fortunately, these wild Pokemon have not been systematically trained, do not know how to use these skills, do not know how to fight. Otherwise, these weird skills alone are enough to be difficult to deal with. Hayu gave this dusk issued by the Alliance to him. Ball was put back into the space ring. Alas, it's a pity that these ghost attribute Pokemon have to be handed over to the Alliance, otherwise I can make a fortune again. However, this is the first time that Hayu has seen this dusk ball. It seems to be the latest product of the Alliance and has not been sold on the market. The function of this dusk ball is to increase the probability of catching Pokemon at night or in dark places. The capture rate is more than 3 times that of ordinary red and white balls. More than twice that of Ultra Ball. Once it starts to be sold, it will definitely be popular in the entire trainer circle. Especially those night owl trainers who often train Pokemon in the dark and explore the wild. Without thinking too much, Hayu continued to explore inside and found some Pokemon skeletons along the way. Hayu was not surprised by this. Mt. Pyre is the burial place of many Pokemon bodies. Most of the Pokemon buried here were once the companions of a trainer. Either they died in battle or their lifespans reached their limit. Some trainers are not stingy with money and do not want their Pokemon to be exposed in the wilderness. They will pay a relatively inexpensive fee to the Pokemon League to allow their Pokemon to be buried and rest in peace in Mt. Pyre. Over time, many Pokemon tombstones have gathered here. Chapter 307 The Strange and Difficult Ghost System. Since a large number of dead Pokemon are buried here, a great deal of dead air and resentment have gathered. This has in turn formed a gathering place for ghost Pokemon. They are like wandering souls, wandering around Mt. There are a lot of ghost-type Pokemon around Pyre, even in the surrounding suburban forests. Because of the rich ghost-type energy here, trainers who specialize in ghost attributes often come here to train Pokemon. Some people also come here to pursue rare ghost-type Pokemon. The most famous one is Chimecho. Although it is a psychic-type Pokemon, it only appears in a forest next to Mt. Pyre. And in the entire Hoenn region, only Mt. Pyre can be found where Chimecho gathers in groups. A psychic-type Pokemon appears in Mt. Pyre, where ghost-type Pokemon are everywhere. It's weird no matter how you look at it. Perhaps it's the opposite of the extreme. He cleared dozens of ghost-type Pokemon along the way, and the levels were generally not very high, and the strongest was only at the advanced level. There are very few superior level Pokemon that can reach level 40 or above. Soon, in less than half a day, Kuroyu stood on Mt. At the foot of Mount Pyre, looking at the Mt. Pyre in front of him, which is comparable to Mt. Chimney in terms of height and in every aspect. Hayu couldn't help but be a little absent-minded. If he remembered correctly, the ghost-type elite Phoebe, one of the 4 elites in the future Hoenn region, seemed to have walked out of Mt. Pyre. But these trainers passing by are really exaggerated, all of them have panda eyes and dark circles under their eyes. After arriving at Tommy's feet, you can already see some tents standing in a row. They are all trainers who come to Mt. Pyre to explore. These people are more or less followed by 1 or 2 ghost-type Pokemon. Compared to the normal bustle of a trainer gathering place, this place seems extremely deserted. Everyone is concentrating on doing their own things without looking sideways. Hayu doesn't find it strange. Trainers who specialize in fire attributes are often more enthusiastic and impulsive. Trainers who specialize in electric attributes are often more impatient and bold. The choice of Pokemon in the team can also reflect some of the trainer's personality, and trainers who specialize in ghost attributes are the least among all attributes. Even less than Psychic and Dragon. It's not only because of the scarcity of ghost attribute Pokemon, but more because of the weirdness of ghost attribute Pokemon. Some ghost attribute Pokemon will directly feed on human anger, so gradually there is a rumor in the trainer circle. Long-term stay with ghost attribute Pokemon, it will reduce human lifespan. Although this rumor is half true and half false, after all, in the Alliance forum, you can often see the terrible incidents of ghost Pokemon killing people and killing their masters. Over time, people's rejection and dislike of ghost attribute Pokemon reached its peak. Heiyu climbed towards the inner core area of MT Pyre. During this time, many people cast surprised eyes, but when he saw Umbreon following him, he seemed to think it was natural. With a superior level evil attribute Pokemon protecting him, even MT Pyre's mountainside can also be stepped on. On the contrary, if you are weak, it is better to stay at the foot of the mountain and the periphery, otherwise, those difficult ghost attribute Pokemon will teach you a lesson. When Heiyu climbed to the mountainside, he found that there were almost no people here. Although there were traces of human footsteps, they were very faint. This footprint is at least half a month ago. Does that mean that no one has set foot on the mountainside in the past half-month? Heiyu squatted down and overlooked a faint footprint. Looking up at the sky, he found that even though the sun was shining here, he could not feel the warmth at all. Instead, he felt cold all over. Let's continue to clean up the Pokemon. This task is really difficult. Heiyu couldn't help complaining. Then, he ignored a sign on the side reads "Do not enter at will," and Crawdaunt and other Pokemon are released. They start to circle the mountainside, looking for ghost attribute Pokemon hiding in the dark, and start the cleanup operation. Duskull, Shuppet, Sableye, Misdreavus. The types of Pokemon on the mountainside are obviously more, and their strength is much stronger than the outer part at the foot of the mountain. The levels are generally above level 30, and even occasionally you can encounter a few superior wild Pokemon. But without exception, all are ghost attributes. There is no Pokemon of other attributes. This is the burial place of the dead, the home of the skeleton, and also the paradise of ghost attribute Pokemon. This is MT Pyre. Heiyu stepped on the soft grass. There was only one tombstone standing on a large open space. It seemed that the Pokemon buried underground must be quite large, otherwise how could it occupy such a large area? The owner of this Pokemon must have a lot of feelings for Pokemon, otherwise he would not have spent money to buy such a large cemetery for a dead Pokemon. Heiyu took out a wet handkerchief and wiped the tombstone clean, revealing the name on it. Blastoise. Trainer, King Ping. Experience, served in the 7th Battalion of the Hone Alliance Marine Corps, made great contributions in the fight against pirate attacks on fishermen, and finally died in a battle to clean up marine safety and fight against pirates in the 983rd year of the Alliance calendar. Heiyu lowered his head and looked at the weed-covered land under his feet. He didn't have any idea of robbing the graves of Pokemon corpses. Although the tortoise shell on Blastoise is very valuable, it has been hundreds of years and has long been rotten into ashes. Pirate. When Heiyu saw these two familiar words, he couldn't help but feel a little emotional. Soon, he threw these miscellaneous thoughts out of his mind and continued to clean up the ghost attribute. Sex Pokemon. Ghost Pokemon are famous for being weird and difficult to deal with. They often hide in some dark places and launch sneak attacks on Heiyu. However, these simple sneak attacks will not have any effect. Heiyu has released all Pokemon, whether it is east, west, south, north, front, back, left, right, or even the sky and the ground. They are all like an iron barrel, defending tightly. Time gradually came to night. Heiyu felt the increasingly quiet environment around him, until soon, it would enter the night when ghost Pokemon are most active. The combat power of ghost Pokemon at night is increased by 3 points. And in the dim environment, it is more suitable for them to hide and conceal, even the ghost skills released are silent. So when Heiyu was ready to explore the last cemetery, he looked for a place to set up camp. Han Crow, go and explore behind that tombstone, Heiyu said lightly. Chapter 308 Bayonet. After defeating and clearing dozens of ghost-type Pokemon on the mountainside, Heiyu also gained some experience. Knowing that ghost-type wild Pokemon are easily hidden in the dark places such as the backlight of some rocks and tombstones, Han Crow did not dare to neglect the order after hearing it. As the scout in the team, the existence of eyes has always been conscientious and responsible. Flying towards the tombstone, constantly hovering in the sky, nothing unusual appeared. Just when Heiyu breathed a sigh of relief and was about to leave, a huge and terrifying phantom suddenly appeared behind the tombstone. It was a weird doll-like phantom. It looked like a doll with a zipper on its mouth. Bayonet. Heiyu recognized the appearance of this Pokemon at a glance. Wasn't it the evolution type of Shuppet that he had cleared a lot of before? Speaking of which, the birth of this Pokemon is also very strange. In addition to being born by normal egg hatching, it can also be artificially created. Bayonet was originally just a poor abandoned doll. The energy of curse penetrated into the cotton of the abandoned doll, and the strong grudge turned the doll into a Pokemon. This is the introduction of Bayonet on the Pokédex. If it is a Bayonet hatched from an egg, it is okay, but if it is a Bayonet transformed from a doll, then it is very scary. It will wander the streets, looking for the children who abandoned it, and use the large amount of curse energy in its body to take revenge. There are a few cases every year where children die after Bayonet's curse energy invades their bodies. Heiyu doesn't dare to be careless. Although this Bayonet is only at the superior level, Heiyu has already experienced the difficulty and weirdness of the ghost type. Therefore, he naturally goes all out. Han Crow, all Tailwind, Dark Pulse. Crawdaunt, rush up and use Crunch. Sharpedo, maintain acceleration, Crunch. The 3 strongest Pokemon in the team attacked one after another under Heiyu's command. And all of them used evil attribute moves that restrain ghost attributes. Bayonet jumped out directly from behind the tombstone, and calmly summoned 6 strange flames around her body in the face of the attack. The Will-O-Wisp skill quickly spreads to the surroundings. Heiyu quickly ordered the Pokemon to dodge. If they were caught in the burning state, they would not only have to endure the scorching of the flames, but also suffer extremely. The physical attacks of his own Pokemon would also be affected. At the same level, almost half of the power would be wasted. Han Crow directly used Gust, and 2 small gusts of wind directly smashed the incoming Will-O-Wisp. Crawdaunt and Sharpedo were much simpler, and they directly used water jets to smash the flames. Heiyu kept an eye on the battlefield. When he saw a shadow suddenly appear behind Bayonet and attack Crawdaunt at an extremely fast state, Heiyu quickly reacted. This was the Shadow Sneak skill. It was one of the few ghost-type skills that was famous for its speed and silence. Crawdaunt, use Substitute. After receiving the order, Crawdaunt quickly used the skill, and in just a few seconds, a layer of fuzzy cardboard appeared. If you look closely, you may be able to detect a subtle difference, but the distance is so far, and in the evening MT Pyre's dim environment. Bayonet didn't notice anything wrong and attacked Substitute directly. Heiyu took advantage of this opportunity to pursue and beat the fallen dog. Crawdaunt, Water Jet Rush over, Crab Claw Hammer. When the Substitute attacked by Bayonet exploded with a bang, it realized that it was fooled. Crawdaunt had already rushed in front of Bayonet. Under the crisis, the ghost attribute energy in her body surged wildly. The moment before the Crab Claw Hammer fell, like a ghost, it disappeared directly on the spot. Heiyu immediately shouted, "Be careful, it's Phantom Force, gather together, and huddle together." Just as Sharpedo was about to retreat, the space around him suddenly twisted, as if it had turned into a dark void. A dark puppet hand stretched out from it and suddenly pounded down. This attack did not cause much damage. Sharpedo reacted quickly and turned his head to bite madly, but the puppet hand was completely submerged in the dimensional space that looked like a dark void just before Sharpedo's crunch hit it. Be on guard and pay attention to your surroundings at all times. Bayonet may appear anywhere at any time. Hayu observed the surroundings keenly, with a cautious expression. Phantom Force. This skill is to disappear in the real world, enter a certain dimension, and then suddenly appear to attack. It is a very difficult and strange skill. After all, the attack of this skill is not like dig, which can be discovered in advance through the tremor of the ground. There is almost no sign. It appears in an instant and disappears in an instant. However, Phantom Force also has certain limitations. Pokémon can enter the dimension for a short time, but they can never stay for a long time. Hayu specially learned about this knowledge on the way to MT Pyre. Even elite Pokémon at most, they can stay in the dimensional space for a few minutes. Ordinary superior level players are even weaker, and can only stay for a dozen seconds at most, which means that Bayonet will appear again soon. Sharpedo opened his hideous shark mouth, and his scarlet eyes scanned the dim environment around him sharply, always on guard against Bayonet's sneak attack. However, after waiting for more than 10 seconds, Bayonet did not appear again. Just as Hayu was muttering to himself, 3 shadow sneaks suddenly came from a distance. Hayu was stunned. Bayonet turned the Phantom Force attack into a guerrilla warfare move. Similar to quick attack and agility for quick escape and movement. Although Phantom Force looks very simple, it just drills into the dimensional space and then suddenly comes out. But in fact, there are a lot of tricks in it. According to a research paper published by Professor Oak in the Pokémon world, the so-called alternate dimension is actually a gray space. There is no material energy in it, and it is impossible to distinguish the direction of time. The middle position of the alternate dimension and the main world is not a one-to-one correspondence. It is possible to move thousands of meters in the alternate dimension, but in the real world, it is only 1 meter. It is possible to move 1 meter in the alternate dimension, and suddenly appear 10,000 meters away in the real world. Therefore, Phantom Force can be said to be a move with extremely high learning difficulty. It is not difficult to say in the wild. In some competitions, trainers generally rarely dare to command Pokémon to use Phantom Force. After all, if you are not familiar with the moves, if you are not careful, Pokémon may suddenly appear outside the competition venue. At that time, a yellow card warning is absolutely necessary. Chapter 309 Scope Lens was stolen? In a list on the Alliance forum, someone once asked which move is the most difficult to learn. Among them, Swords Dance, Dragon Dance, Space Field, these skills are naturally ranked at the top. Phantom Force seems out of place among them. If it were a trainer with less knowledge, he might question why such a skill is more difficult to learn than Swords Dance. But as long as you have some knowledge of ghost attributes, you will not doubt it at all. You may even think that the ranking is low, and Phantom Force should be the most difficult to learn. After all, it is too difficult to smoothly travel between the other dimension and the main world, and to ensure that the position anchor point cannot have the slightest error. At this moment, Hayu was surprised that such a wild Bayonet could use Phantom Force so skillfully. And he could use Phantom Force in a variety of ways, using a sneak attack skill as an escape and fighting a guerrilla war. Could it be another wild genius? Hayu responded to the shadow ball attacks that suddenly emerged from all kinds of dark places from all directions without panic. He commanded Pokémon to use Scald, Ice Beam, Dark Pulse and other skills to block. It seems that he realized that Shadow Sneak did not work. Bayonet, who was hiding in the dark, was silent for a long time and did not launch an attack. And Hayu would naturally not sit and wait for death. He directly let Crawdaunt use Dragon Dance. Hayu's thinking was very clear. Since Bayonet liked to hide and play guerrilla warfare, he would take advantage of this time to strengthen the Pokémon. Try to push X speed to the limit that the body can bear. Sure enough, Bainat in the dark saw this scene and couldn't sit still for a moment. Suddenly, she emerged from a boulder. Two puppet hands kept waving, and a strange and dark storm blew out, making the whole lawn fall into a creepy picture. Ominous wind? Hey, you exclaimed in surprise. Shadow Sneak's single attack doesn't work. Has it changed to a large-scale group attack now? Hey, you narrowed his eyes slightly, facing the overwhelming black storm. He remained calm. Crawdaunt, sludge bomb, rain dance. A ball of sludge gradually condensed in Crawdaunt's pincers and grew larger and larger. The venom rolled and bubbled in it, and the black and purple sludge ball looked extremely disgusting. Crawdaunt threw it into the air, and at the same time, she instantly waved her pincers rain dance, and several dark clouds covered the sky. The disgusting sludge bomb exploded in the air. At the same time, countless raindrops fell from the sky. The exploded sludge bomb merged with the raindrops, and the entire lawn began to rain acid rain in a small area, forming a natural protective wall. The strange ominous wind quickly melted when it blew towards the acid rain, and the overwhelming power dissipated instantly. Bainat the large-scale attack, ominous wind, was quickly resolved. As expected of André, the senior breeder, who customized a training plan for me, the combination of sludge bomb and rain dance is really effective. André's training plan for Heyu naturally includes training for skills. Heyu looked at Bainat, who was scratching her head and was harassed by the acid rain not far away, and a burst of joy emerged in his heart. I didn't expect the combination of moves to be feasible. It seems that I can study it in depth in the future. Heyu suddenly thought in his heart. Combination of moves. Kuroyu is not unfamiliar with this name. When they were in Team Rockets, the twin brothers and Rose showed a series of combination moves such as double earth power and pedal twister. At that time, Kuroyu looked at them with envy. It's a pity that compared with others who have been trainers for decades, Kuroyu, who is only 17 years old, has only had Pokemon for less than 2 years. He has been busy with the strength of Pokemon and has not had time to study this knowledge. It was not until André's customized plan came out that Kuroyu realized the power of combination moves. At the same time, he also understood that the combination moves performed by the twin brothers and Rose were not authentic. The so-called combination moves are to coordinate the moves of 2 Pokemon. But the real combination moves are to have only one Pokemon perform 2 skills at the same time and fuse them. There is an essential difference between the two. The former can only be regarded as cooperation between Pokemon, while the latter can be regarded as a combination of moves. Just like Crawdaunt now, a Pokemon, performs 2 skills at the same time, Sludge Bomb and Rain Dance. Rather than 2 Pokemon, one performs Sludge Bomb and the other performs Rain Dance. Of course, if André knew that Heyu had already figured out a combination move, he would definitely be shocked. Because combination moves are often skills that are trained after Pokemon reaches Quasi-Elite. Only when Pokemon reaches Quasi-Elite, has a strong control over its own energy and body, and is extremely proficient in moves. Can it train a combination move? It can only be said that the blue orb fragments are too powerful, and the sunny and rainy rhymes are too amazing. Han Crow rushed up and used Night Slash. Kuroyu saw Bainat, whose body was corroded by acid rain and was emitting hot steam, and seized this opportunity to directly order Han Crow to attack. The spite in Bainat's heart became heavier and heavier, and her own curse energy was almost overflowing. The short puppet hand swept directly, and several dark purple gunk shots. Gunk shot, directly pointed at Han Crow in the sky. Kuroyu commanded, Umbreon, Wonder Room transfers defense to Han Crow. A pink 3-dimensional cube box appeared. In the blink of an eye, it covered the entire lawn battlefield. An invisible force was transferred from Umbreon's body to Han Crow. Han Crow directly used Night Slash smackdown on Gunk Shot, and with the strong defense transferred to his body. Han Crow was not affected at all. But the rhythm and speed of the attack were affected after all. So that Bainat seized this opportunity and used a skill that made Kuroyu furious and unexpected. Two strange paper cups appeared beside Bainat and Honkro respectively. A shadow of scope lens suddenly appeared behind Honkro. In the surprised eyes of everyone, the shadow of scope lens directly drilled into the paper cup in front of him. The paper cups of both parties were directly exchanged at a speed that could not be distinguished by the naked eye. Honkro's scope lens was actually transferred to Bainat. Damn, a trick skill? Trick, seize the opponent's gap and exchange your own and the opponent's possessions. Kuroya didn't react at all and cursed. But after reacting, he was furious. Good guy, he actually dared to steal props. Looking at Bainat with a weird and cunning smile, Kuroya was anxious. Zorua, use Encore. Kuroya breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that Zorua's Encore took effect. If Bainat had used Phantom Force to escape and teleport directly to a distance of 10,000 meters, wouldn't his scope lens have been taken away directly? But fortunately, he was hit by Zorua's Encore. Then Bainat can only use the last skill just now in the next period of time. That is to say, Bainat can only use the trick skill. Chapter 310 Phoebe. Crawdaunt, water jet rush over, crunch. Heiyu took the lead and prepared to take back the props. The evil attribute energy surged on Crawdaunt's huge pincers, and it smashed down hard. Bainat screamed in pain and was knocked unconscious by the evil attribute skill that was restrained by this move. But this Bainat's talent is really good. Heiyu remembered Bainat's Phantom Force skill, and couldn't help but admire it in his heart. Took out a dusk ball issued by the Alliance and threw it at the unconscious Bainat. The imagined successful capture did not appear. After the red beam shone on Bainat, it was directly rebounded. Hey? Could it be that this Bainat is not a wild Pokémon? Was it abandoned by someone? Heiyu looked at the ineffective Pokeball guessed in his heart. Just when Heiyu was confused, a figure suddenly walked out from the pile of rocks not far away. The whole figure was shrouded in darkness, and a strong ghost attribute energy emerged around the body. At the same time, the ghost attribute Pokémon hiding in the dark also appeared one after another. It seemed that they were attracted by the figure. They gathered towards it, Duskull, Ghastly, Shuppet, and even their evolution types, Dusclops, Ghastly Tongue, and Bainat. There were more and more people, surrounding them in the distance. Next to the figure. The figure seemed to have noticed Heiyu, especially when he saw Bainat fainting at Heiyu's feet. He quickened his pace and ran towards Heiyu. Heiyu frowned and took a fighting stance, and only observed the face when the person approached. This was a wheat-colored girl with a pair of deep blue eyes, short black hair, and big red flowers on both sides of her cheeks. She wore a sky blue dress with a collar around her ankles, but she was not wearing shoes, and stepped on the grass barefoot. Phoebe? Heiyu was shocked. As early as when he entered MT Pyre, Heiyu was wondering if he would meet one of the 4 future elites of Hone region, the Ghost Elite, Phoebe. I didn't expect to actually meet her. There was a hint of anger in Phoebe's clear eyes. Especially when she saw Bainat, who had lost her ability to fight, she ran anxiously, knelt on the ground and hugged Bainat in her arms. She raised her head and asked without a trace of fireworks, "Who are you and why did you attack my Bainat?" Heiyu explained lightly, "Sorry, I didn't know that Bainat had a trainer. I thought it was just a wild Pokémon." Phoebe glared at Heiyu and retorted, "Bainat is not a wild Pokémon that no one wants. It has an owner." After Phoebe finished speaking, she no longer paid attention to Heiyu, but stretched out her hands and slowly stroked the injured part of Bainat. Heiyu watched quietly on the side. Phoebe's hands were shining with a dark luster, and the injuries on Bainat's body disappeared miraculously in a few seconds. Bainat woke up from her coma, especially after seeing Phoebe. She no longer looked weird and ferocious at the beginning. Like a child who saw his mother, he crawled into Phoebe's arms and told her something, as if complaining. After hearing what Bainat said, Phoebe stood up, put her hands on her waist, and asked, Bainat said it hurt a lot, why did you attack Bainat?" Heiyu was still in surprise. Could Phoebe's ability to instantly heal Pokémon's injuries be the legendary special physique? Similar to Aura Warriors? Ask Bayonet who started it first? Yu frowned and retorted coldly. Phoebe was choked when she heard this, and turned to look at Bayonet, with a hint of confusion in her eyes. As if she was communicating with Bayonet. When Yu saw this scene again, he understood that in his previous life, whether in the game or in the animation. After Phoebe became a Ghost Elite, it was rumored that he could communicate directly with Ghost Pokémon, which was a bit similar to the telepathy of psychics. Bayonet, who was asked by Phoebe, showed a panic on her face, but she finally told the whole story. After listening to Bayonet's explanation, Phoebe showed a hint of embarrassment on her face, and apologized. Well, it seems that Bayonet was wrong first. This kid has never been out of MT Pyre before. This time he ran out for fun. When he saw you appear, he wanted to fight, but he was defeated by you. As she spoke, Phoebe bowed and apologized to Yu. Yu said angrily, "You let Bayonet return the stolen scope lens to me first." Phoebe heard this and scolded Bayonet. "Bayonet, grandparents said that it is wrong to steal other people's things. Return the props to them." Bayonet whimpered in grievance, and then spit out a prop with a faint luster from the surface of her body. "Scope lens prop." Yu breathed a sigh of relief. The scope lens prop was the trophy he got from defeating the quasi-elite level Team Aqua captain. Not to mention how much hard work and danger Yu himself had put in, the functional props like scope lens alone are worth no less than 10 million. The value is far higher than those charcoal, mystic water, and other attribute-enhancing items. So it must not be lost. Yu merged it into Honchro's body again, turned to look at Phoebe, and said solemnly, "I didn't come here casually, I was sent by the Alliance to clear the ghost Pokémon wandering around MT Pyre and prevent them from disturbing the rest of the deceased Pokémon." Hearing that Yu was so selfless and willing to take risks to come to MT Pyre to complete the task. Never walked out of MT Pyre, Phoebe, who had experienced human society, could not help but feel admiration in her heart. "So that's how it is." "Sorry, I misunderstood you," Phoebe said softly with her head down, feeling a little embarrassed. "Don't worry, these wild ghost Pokémon will listen to me. They will do whatever I tell them to do." Phoebe looked at the ghost Pokémon gathering more and more nearby, waved her hand, as if directing something. A dark light appeared on the surface of Phoebe's wheat-colored skin, and those ghost Pokémon lined up in an orderly manner, heading towards the interior of MT Pyre one by one. "Don't worry, I will control these Pokémon in the future, and will not let them walk out of the core area of MT Pyre at will to disturb people outside," Phoebe said apologetically. Yu looked at Phoebe in front of him in surprise. "This ghost Pokémon affinity, I'm afraid it's going to explode, right? These unruly ghost-type Pokémon, when facing Phoebe, are as obedient as good babies. By the way, my name is Phoebe, what's your name?" Yu. Chapter 311 The Power of Ghost. Yu looked at Phoebe who was about to leave, and suddenly shouted, "Please wait a moment." Phoebe turned around, tilted her head, and showed a cute puzzled expression. In addition to the task of clearing the ghost-type Pokémon of MT Pyre, more importantly, he had to hand over the letter to the two big guys who lived in seclusion on the top of the mountain. If the guess is correct, the two seniors should be Phoebe's grandfather and grandmother. Although I have the MT Pyre map given by the Alliance, I don't know how much effort it will take to find it alone, Yu thought to himself. And isn't Phoebe in front of him a good guide? Who is more familiar with the terrain than Phoebe, who has lived in MT Pyre since childhood? Yu said without hesitation, "I came here to deliver a letter to the two seniors who live in seclusion in MT Pyre under the order of the President of the Hone Alliance. I wonder if you..." Phoebe. Before Yu finished speaking, Phoebe's eyes suddenly lit up without the slightest bit of defense. She said innocently, "Ah, Yu, you are talking about grandparents, right?" Phoebe was surprised, because her grandparents said that as long as they waited for the people from the Alliance to visit them, they could leave MT Pyre and explore the outside world. Phoebe was filled with anticipation when she thought of the stories her grandparents told her about the outside world. "Don't worry, I'll take you to see your grandparents," Phoebe said, patting her chest. Phoebe didn't seem to care about being a guide at all. Instead, she was very happy to lead Hayu, which made Hayu secretly mutter, "Another naive person who has not experienced much of the world." The two headed towards MT. Heading inside the top of Pyre Mountain, they took some detours and even some secret doors. It made Hayu more determined. If Phoebe hadn't led the way, he would have spent several days here. Bainat also followed Phoebe, lowering her head, looking like she had made a mistake. "Phoebe, don't you put Bainat away?" Hayu kindly suggested, looking at the increasingly narrow passages on both sides. Phoebe tilted her head, as if she was thinking about something. After a while, she clapped her hands and said, "By the way, Hayu, I just wanted to ask you, how did you put the Pokemon into that little black ball? It's amazing, isn't it?" Hayu's face showed a trace of astonishment, and he said, "You don't know Pokeball? That's strange, why did his ball throwing fail just now?" Phoebe blinked. He opened his eyes and shook his head slowly. He stretched out his hand and condensed a dark light in his palm, saying, "I always use this contract Pokemon directly, and they directly recognize me as a trainer." Hayu was shocked again, and sighed in his heart that he was worthy of his physique with an extremely high affinity for ghost attributes. He can gather ghost attribute energy into substance out of thin air. It was just like the magic in the movie. He took out a red and white Pokeball from the space ring and spent half an hour to explain it to Phoebe. "Wow, this is too magical. Hayu, can you give me a few Pokeballs? I'll exchange this with you." Phoebe looked at Hayu eagerly. Phoebe's palm was facing the sky, and the ghost energy surged wildly, and finally gradually formed a crystal clear dark crystal. "Making things out of thin air?" Hayu couldn't help but exclaimed again, and wondered, "What is this?" Phoebe patiently explained, "This thing can only be worn on the body to continue to go deeper into MT Pyre. Otherwise, ordinary people who enter may not be able to withstand the impact of the rich ghost energy." Hayu couldn't help asking, "Phoebe, why didn't you say it just now?" Phoebe said cutely, "You didn't ask?" Although Hayu was a little speechless, he still took out Pokeballs from the space ring one after another. "Ball, Great Ball, Ultra Ball, Luxury Ball," took out 2 of them and gave them to Phoebe. Successfully exchanged for the crystal clear dark crystal. "Wow, Hayu, you can actually make a Pokeball out of thin air, isn't it amazing?" Phoebe exclaimed again. "That's called a space ring, which can be used to store items. There is an alien space inside." Hayu didn't feel annoyed because Phoebe was the future Hone Alliance Ghost Elite, and explained patiently. "Well, is this space similar to the alien space of the Phantom Force used by Bainat?" Hayu was choked by Phoebe's question and could only answer, "I don't know about this either, maybe you have to ask the person who produces the space ring?" The two of them walked and talked all the way, and Phoebe basically kept asking various common sense questions. Hayu patiently answered them one by one. Phoebe, who had never left MT Pyre, a girl who has never entered human society, seems to be full of curiosity about everything. "Kuroyu, are you a trainer from outside? Why don't you have ghost attribute Pokemon?" "I am a trainer specializing in dark attributes." "Kuroyu, is the outside world fun? Are there a lot of ghost attribute Pokemon?" "I think so. Although there are many ghost attribute Pokemon in MT Pyre, I have never seen Hunch, Shedinja, and Yamisk family." "Kuroyu, are all these Pokemon ghost attributes? Can you tell me about their characteristics?" Too much to tell in a short time. I'll tell you in detail when I have time. Let's hurry on our way." Hayu. In less than half an hour, Hayu felt a fly buzzing around his ears. I didn't expect that Phoebe, who looked a little naive, was actually a chatterbox. Especially after getting familiar with Hayu, she asked questions almost every moment, and they were all about empty things from the world outside Pyre. But for such a young girl who has not experienced the world, Yu still feels a little helpless. You say she is simple, she knows a lot of things, especially the knowledge about ghost attributes, which is said to be taught by her grandparents. You say she is not simple, she always asks some confusing questions, almost all of which are common sense, even a 3-year-old child knows. Hey, finally here. Yu walked through a long and narrow mountain road and finally stopped in front of a huge stone wall. It looks very ordinary, nothing unusual. Yu just feels the touch of normal rock when he touches it. But when Phoebe stretched out her hand, the palm of her hand emerged, the strange ghost energy caused a slight tremor on the rock. The stone wall in front of Yu disappeared with a whoosh, as if it had never appeared. Yu rubbed his eyes and looked at Phoebe in disbelief. Yu, this is the power of the ghost, and it was also taught to me by my grandmother. Phoebe said proudly with a grin on her face. Yu didn't know how many times he heard, this is what my grandmother, father, taught me along the way. Good guy, your grandparents are omnipotent. Yu couldn't help but twitch his mouth. You have a calm expression, what are you showing off? Phoebe didn't feel strange or anything, and didn't mean to show off. After all, her grandparents are omnipotent, mother also has this ability, she doesn't think it's special. Shouldn't it be a common thing to master the power of the netherworld? Chapter 312 Red Orb Fragment. After entering the interior of Mt. Pyre, what came into view seemed to be a place of polar night. Although there were flowers, trees, thatched houses, and even trickling streams and breezes on the face, the environment in the entire space was dim, almost all grey. Yu looked up at the sky, there was no sun. And the light inside was all from the night lights placed every 3 or 5 steps, as well as some glowing rocks, stones, and mosses. Although the brightness was not as good as a real light bulb, it was barely enough to illuminate the road for walking, so that the line of sight could distinguish. This is Mt. Is it the interior of Pyre, or a different space? Yu speculated secretly in his heart. Yu looked at the dark particles floating in the air and knew that it was because the ghost attribute energy was too rich, so it formed a substance. He clenched the crystal given by Phoebe in his hand, so that these dark particles would not damage his body. It was indeed as Phoebe said, it was really difficult for ordinary people to stay here for a long time. After a long time, the body would be directly eroded by these pervasive dark particles. Bayonet, who had been following Phoebe, jumped away. This was where it had lived and grown up. At the same time, Yu found that there were a large number of ghost Pokemon in this paradise, and the level was not low, at least it was superior level, which was more than 1 level stronger than the outside. And if you approached and observed carefully, you can find that the qualifications are also good, absolutely excellent. But think about it. This place is known as the Holy Land of Ghost Attribute Pokemon. After all, how could the qualifications be poor if you live here for a long time? Phoebe was very familiar with the terrain and the little Pokemon here, and she kept greeting these ghost-type Pokemon happily. The further Yu walked, the more frightened he became, because the strength of the Pokemon kept climbing from the superior level to the quasi-elite level. At the end, he even saw a Gengar whose energy level reached the elite level. From the power of the Gyarados, it is not weaker than the Gyarados given to him by the Joy family, and even more powerful. Good guy, if we gather all the ghost attribute Pokemon here, we can directly form a ghost army, right? Yu thought to himself. The Pokemon army is composed of all weird and difficult ghost attribute Pokemon. The combat power is definitely not inferior to any Pokemon army organized by the Alliance. Gengar, you come to greet me, did your grandparents ask you to come? Phoebe saw the elite level Gengar and looked intimate. Phoebe directly hugged the purple fat man in her arms and squeezed him hard. Gengar raised his mouth corners, showing an evil smile, and a doting look flashed in his scarlet eyes. His short hands kept shaking in the air. Genghega Jengar made a strange growl. Then, his body was suspended in the air, floating in front, as if leading the way. Hey you, don't be afraid. Although Jengar looks scary, he is actually very easy to get along with, Phoebe said caringly. After walking for a few minutes, they passed a forest with birds singing and flowers blooming, and finally crossed a wooden bridge. An old wooden house was built next to the stream, which was out of tune with the dark environment. Two old people were sitting next to the flower bed. The old lady was fiddling with a potted plant on the table, and the old man was lying on the armchair, drinking tea from time to time, leisurely. Phoebe saw her grandparents and ran over directly, shouting, "Grandfather, grandmother, the Alliance people are finally here, Phoebe can finally go to the outside world." After hearing Phoebe's words, the old couple put down their things at the same time and looked up at Phoebe. They also saw Hayu following behind Phoebe. The old couple looked at each other, and a trace of confusion flashed in their eyes at the same time, and telepathy was activated instantly. "Old man, am I seeing this right? There are traces of blue on this young man." "That's right, it's definitely that person's aura." Phoebe pouted when she saw her grandparents whispering with the power of the netherworld. With her current skill, she couldn't get into the conversation, so naturally she couldn't know what her grandparents said. The telepathy between the two old people was quickly disconnected, and the netherworld in their eyes disappeared, revealing a kind look. With a grin, all the wrinkles on her face were revealed, and she opened her arms. Phoebe threw herself into the arms of the old lady and acted like a spoiled child. But when she thought of the presence of Hayu, an outsider, she quickly broke free, lowered her head in embarrassment, and her pretty face flushed. "Little Phoebe, don't you want to introduce your friend to Grandma?" The old woman's voice was gentle, but full of majesty. Hayu walked slowly to the two old people and bowed respectfully. He bowed, and then took out the letter that the president of the Hone Alliance needed to pass on from the space ring. The old man just waved his hand, and the letter was suspended in the air, and slowly floated towards him. Hayu knew that this was the power of the ghost that Phoebe mentioned, which was somewhat similar to the effect of psychic. It can move objects and telepathy. But compared to psychic, there is an advantage and a disadvantage. The disadvantage is that it cannot teleport like psychic. The advantage is that it can target ghost attribute Pokemon healing, even energy infusion, improving qualifications. The old man opened the letter, checked it word by word, frowned unconsciously, and handed the letter to the old lady beside him after reading it. After the two of them finished reading it, they looked at Hayu with a strange look. "I didn't expect that in the decades since we retired, the Hone Alliance has changed 3 presidents. Times have changed." Although the old man sighed with a sad tone, his words were full of energy. The old lady's eyes also flashed with reminiscence, especially when she looked at the excited Phoebe on the side. She sighed in her heart, "The outside world is not so easy to mix. My husband and I were tired of political struggles and intrigues, so we decided to retire." But Phoebe actually intended to go. Can the two of them stop her for a lifetime? Alas! After waiting for a few seconds, the old man stood up from the armchair and said in a deep voice, "Little brother, follow me." Hayu's hand secretly approached a pokeball on his waist, which was the elite Gyarados given to him by the Joy family for protection. In other people's territory, you have to be careful. The old man seemed to have noticed Hayu's little action, but he didn't expose it, just chuckled. The two entered a cave one after another. As soon as he entered, Hayu felt very warm. The temperature in the cave seemed to be surprisingly high, and the further he went, the hotter it became. The cave was not as deep as Hayu imagined, and he reached the end in just 1 minute. What came into view was a not-so-high stone pillar. On the stone pillar was placed a deep red fragment, emitting a bright and hot light. Hayu's pupils shrank suddenly, because this orb fragment was extremely similar to the blue orb fragment. It can even be said that it was just a different color. Red orb fragment. Chapter 313 The Old Man's Request. The blue orb in Heiyu's hand, the orb fragment, is a sacred object related to Kyugra, so the red orb fragment in front is a sacred object related to Groudon. It is rumored that the two are a pair of sworn enemies, one red and one blue, representing the earth and the ocean respectively. Kyugra is the incarnation of the ocean, able to expand the ocean with heavy rain and tsunamis, and has the ability to call the wind and rain. Wherever he passes, it will be flooded by the sea. Groudon is the incarnation of the earth, able to produce lava and expand the earth, but because Kyugra is wantonly expanding the ocean, he is dissatisfied and directly triggers a volcanic eruption, evaporating the ocean and forming the current homeland. The two were born enemies, and they would wake up from their slumber and fight every once in a while. The old man on the side was not surprised to see Heiyu recognize the red orb fragment. After all, he used the power of the netherworld and could observe that Heiyu was stained with the scent of the blue orb fragment. Take the red orb fragment back and give it to the current president of the Hone Alliance. The old man did not hesitate and directly used the power of the netherworld to make the red orb fragment float in the air. Heiyu caught the red orb fragment in a daze. After careful observation, he found that the fragment of the gem was not small. From the scale, it occupies at least 1/3 of the size of the entire gem. If Heiyu's blue orb fragment is the size of an egg, the red orb fragment in front of him is at least the size of a palm. Heiyu's heart was thumping. For a moment, he actually wanted to take the red orb fragment. Orb fragments were privately swallowed, and the urge to take them for himself. In the dim cave, Heiyu's eyes became more and more scorching. But soon, a chill rushed into his heart, and he saw the old man staring at Heiyu with a dark gaze. Heiyu's heart cooled down instantly. He was now a third-level authority of the Alliance, and there was no need to take this risk. He just needed to develop steadily and at least become an elite. What's more, he didn't have any fire attribute Pokémon, so even if he took the red orb fragments for himself, it would not work at all. The only evil attribute with fire attribute should be Houndoom, but it's a pity that I don't have this Pokémon. Heiyu's scorching eyes gradually faded, and the black pupils regained the luster of rationality. He took a deep breath and took red. The orb fragments were put back into the space ring. The old man beside him saw that Heiyu's eyes had recovered, and Ching-Che nodded in satisfaction, saying to himself, "Hey, my mission as an old man is finally completed." Heiyu looked at the old man beside him, curious asked, "Senior, were you a member of the Hone Alliance?" "I think I was a member of the Hone Alliance. I did hold an important position in the Hone Alliance, but many years ago, I retired and have lived here for decades," the old man said with a wry smile. Closing his eyes, he seemed to be recalling the past, muttering to himself, "Little brother, the Alliance will send you to take away the red orb fragment. I believe you also know the importance of this matter. The reason why I are guarding this last bit of stuff is to prevent the disaster 100 years ago from erupting again." The disaster 100 years ago? Heiyu seemed to have some impression of this, as if he had seen it in the library of Jinjua Gym. 100 years ago, Groudon, the Lord of the Earth, awakened and alarmed Kyugra, the Lord of the Ocean. The two fought a world-shaking battle on the Hone continent. That battle caused heavy losses to the Hone Alliance at that time, and even the 4 elites and champions at that time were all killed in the battle. Just when the entire Hone Alliance was in despair, a green dragon descended, defeated Kyugra and Groudon 1 against 2, and put the two back to sleep. Heiyu fell into deep thought, and the old man was not in a hurry, just quietly waiting for Heiyu to digest this information. The reason why the old man dared to boldly hand over such an important item to Heiyu was not only because of his rich experience, but also because he had the ability to peek into people's hearts. Of course, it is a bit exaggerated to say this, but at least there is no problem in sensing other people's emotions. Whether it is the old couple or Phoebe, the ghost power they master is actually psychic that has been contaminated with rich ghost attribute energy for a long time and has undergone mutation. They can also use telepathy and some basic changes of psychic, such as telekinesis. But during this mutation, there are gains and losses. Among them, teleport, a great skill, is lost, but what is gained is the ability to peek into other people's moods. Although it is impossible to directly know what others are thinking, it is no problem to know the most basic emotions. For example, the old man now detects the emotions in Heiyu's heart, which are surprise, excitement, doubt, greed, caution, and worry. Among them, caution and greed occupy the most. But as Heiyu slowly digests the content and his heart gradually cools down, the rest of the small emotions almost dissipate, leaving only caution and doubt. This is the reason why the old man is really relieved. Little brother, I want to ask you for one thing. My wife and I are at Mt. Pyre has lived in isolation for more than 40 years, and now Phoebe is 17 years old. She can no longer stay here like us. She must go out to witness the wonderful world outside. The old man turned around and looked at Heiyu eagerly. Heiyu hesitated and said, "Senior, you want me to take Phoebe out, but what about Phoebe's parents?" When the topic was mentioned, a trace of pain flashed in the old man's eyes. My son and daughter-in-law died in battle 17 years ago while carrying out the Alliance mission, leaving behind the newly born Phoebe. Heiyu, you didn't talk about this topic. After all, you can't rub salt into someone else's wounds. The old man continued, "Don't worry, you don't need to work hard all the time. Just take Phoebe to the headquarters of the Alliance. I still know some friends. Let them take care of Phoebe." Heiyu nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. Even the current president of the Hone Alliance called him a senior. It can be seen that the old man is definitely a terrifying boss. The elite strongman will definitely not escape. Heiyu even boldly guessed in his heart that it is very likely to be a strongman at the level of the 4th elite. As for the champion who is one level higher, Heiyu was a little afraid to think about it. This level of strong people is definitely the one standing at the top of the pyramid of the entire Pokemon world. However, facing the old man's request, Heiyu still responded. For him, this is just a small matter. He is more than happy to be able to make friends with the future Ghost Elite. Little brother, don't be in a hurry to leave during this period. Teach Phoebe some rules of the outside world. Thank you very much, old man. Chapter 314, The Old Man's Instructions. After Heiyu and the old man walked out of the cave, they found Phoebe and the old lady welcoming them, and the elite level Jengar was beside them. Don't worry, it's done. Phoebe, follow your little brother and learn about the outside world first, the old man said with a smile. Yeah, come on, Heiyu, come and teach me. Phoebe dragged Heiyu towards the house, cheering. The old man and the old lady looked at each other, watching Phoebe's jumping back, with a look of relief and reluctance in their eyes. Heiyu settled down in Mt. Pyre. Daily life was also very simple. In addition to teaching Phoebe some common sense knowledge outside, more was training Pokemon. Among them, in addition to the most basic training, there was also the exploration of combination moves. For example, Heiyu had always wanted Honchkrow to integrate the evil attribute energy into Gust. The power of the attribute is much greater than that of the flying attribute. The small tornado that is swept out like this is undoubtedly more destructive. It's a pity that the process of exploration has not been smooth. It has been bumping, and the combination moves have been trained for several days, but there is not much effect. Even the old man and the old lady who were watching on the side couldn't stand it and pointed out, in fact, there are skills for combination moves. It is best to combine two skills with the same force and skills. Heiyu seemed to have a sudden enlightenment, and the skills with the same force and skills. A flash of inspiration. Isn't that wing attack and night slash? Both skills are activated by wings, and both use wings to slash. Whether it is the attacking part or the force technique, they are almost exactly the same. It's just that the energy used by both is flying and evil. Applying this trick to Crawdaunt can also have a good effect. After all, the skills of General Lobster are almost all activated by the pair of huge claws. For example, using hidden power, fire, combined with swift, can be trained into a combination skill Flame Star. As for using the Ace skill Crab Claw Hammer to train combination skills, neither Black Feather nor Crawdaunt has such great ability now. After all, they have just explored the combination skills, and can only start with some small skills with less difficulty and weaker power. A month has passed quietly. MT. In a space inside Pyre, Kuroyu is sparring with Phoebe about Pokemon. Honchkrow, Wing Sneak Attack. After receiving the command, Honchkrow quickly turned his body in the air, and milky white flying energy and dark brown evil energy surged from his wings. The two energies intertwined, and the purple light covered the wings, turning into a blade, slashing down. Dusclops, protect and then use disable. Phoebe's command voice fell, and the dark giant on the field instantly summoned a green light curtain for protection. At the same time, the disable skill was used to prevent Honchkrow from using this move. Disable, hinder the opponent's actions, and the previously used moves will be unusable for a short time. Dusclops, use imprison, Phoebe shouted and commanded. An invisible force quickly merged into the field. And a huge red X shadow quickly emerged on the surface of Honkrow's body. Heiyu frowned, thinking that it was difficult to deal with. Phoebe is worthy of being the future ghost-type elite. She looks very cute and harmless, but in actual combat, she is more comfortable with all kinds of dirty tricks than anyone else. The effect of imprison is very amazing. A skill that can block the target Pokemon's same moves as yours. In other words, the skills mastered by Dusclops and Honchkrow together, Dusclops can use them normally, but Honchkrow cannot use them. Similar to Haze and Faint, Honchkrow cannot use Attack, Dark Pulse, Nightshade, and other skills that both sides can use. You should know that most of the skills that are used by Imprison are ghost or evil attributes that can restrain Dusclops. This move of Imprison is really wonderful. Dusclops, Shadow Punch. The single eye on Dusclops' head flickered slightly, and a pair of grey hands clenched into fists and swung out quickly. The mixed shadow fist wrapped in a dark halo suddenly swung out, combined with the characteristics of oppression, step by step. Honchkrow, Double Team Dodge, Sucker Punch. Heiyu did not dare to be careless. After the previous test, he had already figured out Dusclops' fighting style, relying on many boxing skills to attack head-on. Thunder Punch, Fire Punch, Ice Punch. Among them, the best one is undoubtedly his own system, and Shadow Punch, which is automatically learned in the blood. At the same time, with Will-O-Wisp, spells, Confuse Ray, Pain Split, and various unexpected transformation skills to give a painful blow. Honchkrow quickly transformed into dozens of realistic clones, and the real body was hidden in them, ready to attack with Sucker Punch at any time. Phoebe did not intend to give Kuroyu a chance to breathe. Dusclops swung his fists tightly and broke 20 to 30 clones in a short few seconds. It seemed that the real body was about to be found. Honchkrow hid in the dark and launched Sucker Punch in the blind spot of Dusclops' side attack. Get out of the way! Phoebe saw this and shouted anxiously. Unfortunately, Honchkrow, who always maintains the tailwind state, is extremely fast, and he has the Sucker Punch skill. Hurry up and speed up! Dusclops' hollow grey body tilted and fell straight down from the suspended midair. Honchkrow, Sky Attack. Since most of Dark's moves were imprisoned, Kuroyu could only use the Flying Sky Attack. The light blue firebird was about to fall from the sky and hit Dusclops. Phoebe's voice came just before the skill hit, saying Pain Split. Knocked away by Honchkrow like a missile, the grey and hollow huge body rolled on the ground for several times before Dusclops barely stopped. The powerful flying move, plus the attack with the help of scope lens, unexpectedly triggered a critical hit. The sky attack hit the vital point. In a flash, the originally close battle situation tilted. Dusclops lay on the ground, barely hanging on. Luckily, before sky attack hit, Dusclops had already used Pain Split, and an invisible energy had already connected the two Pokémon together. The strange ghost energy was activated, and the two's physical strength was divided equally. As expected of Phoebe, knowing that this attack could not be avoided, she chose to use Pain Split to stop the loss. Hayu sighed as he watched Dustlop's injuries gradually heal and his physical strength recovered. Pain Split, also known as Pain Split, is a very simple and easy to understand skill. It is to add the physical strength of the two Pokémon together and then divide it equally. One is Dustlop's, who is seriously injured and has reached the bottom of his physical strength and is about to lose his combat ability. The other is Honchkrow, who has basically no injuries and retains a lot of combat ability. Chapter 315 Cloth of the Spirit World. Let's take the simplest example. Honchkrow's health was 100, Dustlop's was 10, and their combined strength is 110. After dividing, Honchkrow's strength will become 55, and Dustlop's will also become 55. This means that Honchkrow lost nearly half of his health for nothing, while Dustlop's used this move to heal his injuries and recover his strength. This is a skill that can turn the tide. Unexpectedly, it can really turn defeat into victory. But Pain Split also has great limitations, such as it is not easy to hit. Just now, Honchkrow directly hit him with Sky Attack, and Phoebe accurately seized the opportunity at that moment to let Dustlop's perform Pain Split. Okay, no more fighting, Dustlop's, are you still hurt? Phoebe hurriedly called a halt to the fight. Directly trotted to Dustlop's and used the power of the Netherworld to treat him. Hayu looked at Phoebe with tears in her eyes and scratched his head, feeling a little embarrassed. Especially MT. The two elders of Pyre were watching the fight. Hayu felt uncomfortable for a moment because he had beaten their granddaughter to tears. Okay, little Phoebe, it's common to get hurt in battle. This is what you have to accept when you go out to fight, the old man said calmly. Yes, your grandfather is right. Only by constantly experiencing pain and falling can you become stronger and grow. This is not only true for Pokémon, but also for people. The old lady also echoed. Phoebe saw that her grandparents, who usually doted on her, no longer comforted her as before, and she couldn't help feeling wronged. However, after Hayu's popularization of the outside world for a month, Phoebe also knew that this was a normal battle. I'm sorry, Hayu, I was too excited, mainly because I was afraid that Xiaoling would be hurt too much. Phoebe lowered her head and apologized with a wronged look. Xiaoling is the nickname of Dustlop's who just fought with Honchkrow. Hayu didn't react much to the suspension of the battle. It was just a competition, so there was no need to be so serious. Phoebe, this is a great battle. Your tactics just now surprised me. Hayu didn't flatter deliberately this time, but admired sincerely. When Phoebe heard Hayu's praise for her, she said a little embarrassedly, no, these are all taught by my grandparents. This sentence again. Hayu. Seeing the friendly relationship between Phoebe and Hayu, the two elders of MT Pyre looked at each other and felt relieved. Phoebe can have such a good friend to accompany her, and she must be able to adapt to the outside world quickly. Little Phoebe, before leaving, let Dustlop's evolution into Dusk Noir, otherwise there won't be such a good environment in the outside world, the old lady said with relief. At the same time, a dark cloth appeared in the air. Hayu was shocked. Cloth of the Spirit World. It is said that it is a special item that can only be condensed when a passage to the spirit world appears in the real world. The spirit world is said to be a certain dimension where a large number of dead souls and ghost-attributed Pokémon gather. So far, few people have walked out alive from it. More than 99% of those who entered died. But people still flock to it, because the energy inside is rich. Not only it is easy to nourish various high-quality ghost-attributed Pokémon, but also it will condense a lot of ghost-attributed treasures. It is even rumored that many curse charms are produced from the spirit world. Among the many treasures, the cloth of the spirit world is also extremely rare. And its function is to help hand Dustlop's evolution into Dusk Noir. The old lady used the power of the netherworld, and a piece of purple cloth emitting a dark luster appeared and floated in the air. Great, can Xiaoling finally evolve? Phoebe cheered happily. Duslop's level has reached nearly level 50, which is already at the point where there is no further progress. His potential at this stage has basically been fully developed. It is necessary to go through the transition of life, commonly known as evolution, to continue to become stronger. Duslops has long recovered from both physical strength and injuries under Phoebe's netherworld treatment. When the cloth of the spirit world appeared, he was instantly attracted. A sense of covet surged into his heart. The moment the grey big hand held the cloth of the spirit world in his hand, his body instantly burst out with endless white light. The surrounding dim environment was fully illuminated. A few seconds later, Dusk Noir appeared. Dusk Noir is basically black, with a ghostly tail and no feet. It has a grey head and a yellow disc-shaped antenna on top of its head. It is rumored that the antenna on the top of its head can be used to receive radio waves from the spirit world. In the previous game, Dusk Noir was a powerful tank Pokémon. With a double defense value of 135 and a very low speed, it was a permanent member of the space team. However, in the reality of the Pokémon world, Dusk Noir is a feared messenger of hell. It is rumored that Dusk Noir has the ability to enter the spirit world freely and also the ability to take living people out of the spirit world. Some kind Dusk Noir will only bring the souls of the dead into the spirit world, helping hand its liberation. But everything has its own exceptions. Some evil Dusk Noirs will choose to hunt humans, bring living people into the spirit world, kill them, and devour their souls to continuously strengthen their own strength. This kind of Dusk Noir is the most terrifying Pokémon. Therefore, in the Pokémon world, no matter which region you are in, as long as you have the Pokémon Dusk Noir, you must report to the Alliance and accept the control of the Alliance. Xiaoling, your eyes are minimized, and why does your body look like a teapot now? Phoebe said innocently, making everyone laugh. This trip to MT Pyre seems to be particularly smooth. Not only did Heiyu complete the task perfectly, his own strength is also improving rapidly. Krokorok's level has reached 38 and is about to evolve. Pokémon's combination moves have also more or less figured out some skills, such as the combination of Honchro Wing Attack and Night/Wing Attack. Crawdaunt Hidden Power. Fire and Swift's combination Flame Star. However, compared to the past, Heiyu now has two more things on him. One is Red Orb Fragments, and the other is the little girl Phoebe. Although Phoebe is about the same age as Heiyu, she is still young and very dependent on Heiyu. Heiyu is also happy about this. He believes that after Phoebe comes out of the mountain, it won't take long for her to be cultivated by the Alliance with the power of the Ghost. It is believed that she will become the fourth Ghost Elite of the Hone Alliance in a few years. On the helicopter sent by the Alliance, Heiyu looked at Phoebe, who was asking questions and was curious about everything, and thought to himself, the connection has increased by one again. Chapter 316 Phoebe with Connections. After returning to the Alliance headquarters building again, Phoebe was immediately picked up by several senior executives of the Alliance. Damn, the Vice President personally greeted her. Heiyu looked at the Vice President, who was concerned about Phoebe and lived up to his serious look during the meeting. Is this what the two elders of MT Pyre said about having some connections? No wonder Phoebe can become a Ghost Elite of the Hone Alliance in the future, in addition to her own extremely high Ghost Attribute Affinity physique. More importantly, the support and cultivation of the Alliance's top leaders are indispensable. A person with connections. Phoebe was picked up by the Vice President. Before leaving, she looked back timidly at Heiyu every 3 steps. Don't worry, this is the Alliance headquarters, there won't be any problems. When you get used to it, you can call me on this number. Heiyu stuffed a string of notes with phone numbers into Phoebe's hands. After settling Phoebe, the little girl, Heiyu went to the Alliance meeting building as soon as possible. First, submit the task of cleaning up MT Pyre's ghost Pokémon, and hand in nearly 100 Dusk Balls with Ghost attribute Pokémon. Another large number of Alliance points have been received. It must be said that the Alliance's cultivation of their young generation is indeed very strong. Hei-Yu first thought that Umbreon had not worn props, so he directly applied for one of the benefits of Level 3 authority. Prop customization. As we all know, props are generally divided into two types. The first type is attribute amplification props such as Mystic Water and Charcoal. This type of prop can be mass-produced in factories. The other type of prop is called functional props, which are simply Life Orb, Quick Claw, Leftovers, etc. This type of prop can only be made by alchemy methods handed down from ancient times, that is, the so-called prop maker. Well, Umbreon is positioned as a meat shield, using synchronization characteristics to interfere, Moonlight, Wish, Helping Hand and other skills to assist, so the most suitable props for her should start from these two aspects. Hei-Yu finally decided on 3 props, Toxic Orb, Flame Orb, and Leftovers. After thinking about it, Hei-Yu decided to choose Leftovers. Toxic Orb and Flame Orb. Although Orb can be used with the synchronous feature to definitely put the opponent in an abnormal state, Umbreon itself will also suffer from poisoning and burning. Hei-Yu is not cruel enough to actively persecute his own Pokémon. Being forced to be affected by abnormal states and actively activating them in battle are two different things. Add 2 more skill discs to Umbreon, Toxic and Facade. Hei-Yu operated the self-service machine. He quickly spent a sum of Alliance points, but compared with the long string of zeros on Hei-Yu's account, it was probably just a fraction of the cost. The custom item was a little more expensive, but even so, if converted into Alliance coins, it was only about 3 million. Using 3 million to exchange for a Leftovers is definitely a good deal. Like Leftovers, this kind of functional item generally starts at 10 million in the black market, and ordinary quasi-elite strongmen may not be able to get it. The Alliance's discount is really big, and the support for us young people is really great. The benefits of the 3rd level authority are really good. In the service of customizing props, Hei-Yu filled in the address of a hotel next to the Alliance building, where he is currently staying. Needless to say, it is naturally one of the benefits of the 3rd level authority. The hotel is specially provided for civil servants of the Alliance. In an extremely advanced laboratory, the headquarters of the Cultivator Guild, which is only 1 street away from the Alliance building, is conducting experiments on the Poke Blocks formula of King Yulaiyun. Suddenly, the Alliance transmitter sounded. Gurlo 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 bang. Andre was startled by the sound and his hands trembled. Walking out of the smoke-filled laboratory, Andre angrily opened the transmitter. Damn it, I just finished making a convex helmet, who customized a leftover item, why did you assign this task to me? You know, Andre is not only a high-level breeder, but also a mysterious prop maker. Andre's focus is naturally on making poke blocks, so in recent times, the Alliance has issued him a lot of tasks. All of them are customized high-level poke blocks or functional props. Almost grabbing Andre. Hei-Yu didn't know what happened just now, just walking in the corridor of the Alliance building and looking out the window. Why is there smoke coming out of a room in the high-rise building of the Breeder Guild opposite? Hei-Yu was a little confused. Walking to the door of the president's office, he found a person standing at the door. It was the assistant who provided the map to Hei-Yu before he went to MT Pyre to perform the mission. Brother Hei-Yu, wait a moment, I will go to inform the president. The assistant saw Hei-Yu coming and did not dare to neglect it. A minute later, Hei-Yu entered the president's office. This was his first time here, the pinnacle of power in the entire Hone Alliance. Hei-Yu was about to report the secret mission given to him by the president, but found that the assistant did not leave, so he hesitated and was a little embarrassed. President, this. The president waved his hand, and Hei-Yu spoke after the assistant went out. President, the letter has been delivered. The 2 old seniors asked me to give this thing to you and asked you to keep it well. Hei-Yu's space ring silver with a flash of light, the red orb fragment instantly appeared on the desk. The surrounding temperature suddenly rose several degrees. A warm feeling formed in the whole room within a few seconds. The president looked at the red orb, without any emotion on his face, just nodded lightly, and then said with appreciation, "You have completed this mission well, remember not to expose it, you should understand the importance of it." The president said meaningfully. Heiyu's heart tightened, knowing that the president was referring to the blue orb fragment on his body, so he nodded repeatedly. If possible, he really didn't want to get involved. But there was no way, he was destined to be unable to avoid such things with the blue orb fragment. Besides, the president gave this task to me, presumably because he valued that there was no power entanglement behind me, Heiyu thought in his heart. Otherwise, if he was born in a noble family like Stephen, how could the president issue this task related to the red orb fragment? In other words, Heiyu's pure background of being helpless has become an advantage? In this way, people in high positions like the president can safely hand over some private matters that are difficult to handle personally to Heiyu. Don't worry, I won't treat you unfairly in this mission. Chapter 317 Wallace's Request for Help. I will announce to the public that the blue orb fragments on you have been handed over to the Alliance. In this way, you can be safer. After all, you are not afraid of thieves stealing, but you are afraid of thieves thinking about it. The president was obviously very satisfied with Heiyu's tactful performance, and his tone of voice was much more relaxed, and he even made a little joke. Heiyu was naturally very satisfied with this reward. After all, there is no reason to guard against thieves for 1,000 days. The blue orb fragment is always a time bomb. You can see that since Heiyu was attacked, he has never dared to go out alone, and basically took the helicopter of the Alliance. It is because he is afraid that the incident of being followed and hired as a killer will happen again. And now, the president's move to use the Alliance to help Heiyu take the blame is undoubtedly the most useful reward. At least Heiyu no longer has to worry about the sudden attack of some elite expert who covets the treasure. Heiyu had a few more words with the president. During this time, the president kept asking Heiyu how many blue orb fragments he had. Heiyu's answer was flawless. 1. There must be only one. The bulk of it was taken away by the temple family behind Cynthia. This is what Heiyu has been claiming since he got the treasure. Heiyu only suspected that he had a blue orb fragment, but he attracted the coercion and inducement of so many high-level officials and big families in the Alliance. If he really had 2 blue orb fragments, he would be taken away by the temple family behind Cynthia. If the exact information about the orb fragments leaks out, he might be eaten alive. After leaving the office, Heiyu casually greeted his assistant and walked towards the cafeteria. The assistant behind him looked at Heiyu's back with a strange smile on his face. When he arrived at the cafeteria, Heiyu saw several familiar figures as soon as he entered. Stephen, wearing a handsome black suit and a red tie, exuded a noble temperament, which attracted the attention of many women in the restaurant. Standing with Stephen was another handsome and attractive man, Wallace, who was a top coordination trainer and was also known as the Prince of Water. Heiyu, this way. Stephen's eyes lit up and he waved his hand. Stephen, Wallace, what a coincidence, you are all here, have you completed all your tasks? Heiyu greeted with a smile. Stephen directly put his arm around Heiyu's shoulders and said with a beaming face, more than completing the task, it was simply unbelievably smooth. I also captured a mysterious psychic attribute Pokemon. Heiyu heard this and had some guesses in his heart. After all, in his previous life, he knew Stephen's Pokemon team very well. Wallace said with despair, mine was not so smooth. He stole the treasure prism from Pseudo Polly's gym. The Desperado of scale is quite strong, reaching the level of quasi-elite. After I fought him, he escaped. Heiyu and Stephen were both shocked when they heard this. Being able to fight with a quasi-elite and gain the upper hand, it seems that Wallace is quite strong, not as weak as he looks on the surface. Actually, I came back to ask for help from you, Heiyu. I remember that you seem to be good at water battles. According to the latest news, the Desperado seems to have escaped to the Southeast Sea area. Wallace bowed elegantly and asked. Crawdaunt and Sharpedo are still the strongest Pokémon for Hayu at present, especially Sharpedo with the acceleration characteristic, which has an advantage in water battles. So what Wallace said was not surprising to Hayu. After a slight pause, Hayu nodded and agreed, saying, yes, but the reward is too high. Wallace hurriedly said, don't worry, we at Pseudo-Poly's gym are not stingy. We can lend you the cultivation secrets for water attribute Pokémon in our gym, but you can't pass it on to others. Hayu was tempted. Pseudo-Poly's gym has been passed down as a water attribute gym for hundreds of years. The cultivation secrets for water attribute Pokémon in it are definitely priceless. Although Hayu specializes in evil attributes, there are many water attributes in the secondary attributes of Pokémon in the team. Including the F that has not yet hatched Roki, there are 3 of them. Hey you, do you want to help? Then count me in, Steven said. Steven originally didn't want to intervene, after all, he and Wallace were not very familiar with each other, and he was not good at water battles. Even the Pokémon team had rock and ground attributes, Steven was not very comfortable with water attribute Pokémon and water battles. But Hayu participated, and as a good brother, Steven thought he should help out. Seeing that Steven and Hayu agreed, Wallace was naturally excited. Not only was the mission promising hope to solve. Moreover, he consciously integrated into the small group of Kuroyu and Steven. As the only coordinating trainer among the 3-level authority promotions, Wallace was almost isolated by everyone and was considered a recognized fake by everyone. Not only are all Pokémon water attributes, but even their strength is definitely not very good. This is almost everyone's idea. It is completely relying on the strong background of Pseudo-Poly's gym, Pseudo-Poly's family, and the organizing committee of the gorgeous competition to enter the 3rd-level authority. However, Kuroyu does not think so. In the memory of the previous life, Wallace Ace later became good friends with Steven, and even took over Steven's future home league champion seat. Whether it was Steven's recognition or the position of champion, it proved that Wallace's strength was absolutely good. It was definitely not as simple as the parallel import on the outside. Perhaps this mission would expose Wallace's true strength. Whether it was to make friends with Wallace, find out the approximate strength of Wallace and Steven, or prepare for the subsequent home competition, it was one of the reasons why Hayu agreed to helping hand Wallace. The 3 of them ordered a large table of dishes respectively. As a 3rd-level authority, it was naturally all free. The 3rd-level authority of the Alliance, whether for Pokémon or people, whether it was food, clothing, housing, transportation, or precious resources, everything could be treated preferentially. It was not surprising why those big families also tried their best to be promoted to the 3rd-level authority. The highest authority in the Alliance talent reserve system was not just a casual talk. After eating and drinking, the 3 of them left the Alliance headquarters together and went to Evergrande on the coastal beach of the city, riding a flying Pokémon, heading towards the Southeast Sea. On the other side, Phoebe, who had just left the warm hospitality of a bunch of uncles, aunts, was calling Hayu in a daze. Although her ghost power was not as strong as her grandparents', which could sense emotions. But she could also feel that the so-called uncles were not sincere to her, and some even had malice towards her. Phoebe seemed to feel that the outside world was not as beautiful as she imagined, and she was a little at a loss for a while. Doduo. It was a pity that she dialed several times but didn't get through. Wow, Hayu, you don't keep your word. Phoebe said to the sky with a face full of grievance. The whole body exuded a strange light of ghost attributes. Chapter 318 Bloodhound Family. The entire east side of Hone region is almost all sea. And the sea is one of the forbidden areas for humans. The vast ocean breeds many unknown dangers and powerful wild Pokémon. Therefore, even the Alliance cannot ensure absolute control of the ocean, and even has to make concessions to evil forces. This leads to some gray area desperados who violate the laws of the Alliance to flee to the ocean as their first retreat. Above a vast ocean, a Honchkrow, a Skarmory, a sea Charizard soars in the sky. 3 handsome boys sit on the backs of 3 Pokémon, namely Kuraba, Steven, and Wallace. Kuraba, needless to say, is very comfortable riding on Honkrow's back, enjoying the warm feathers. Steven installed a seat on Skarmory's back. After all, if Skarmory sits on it with his Aurabug body, his butt will hurt. As for Wallace, a trainer specializing in water type, rides on the back of a fire type Charizard. We have to mention Wallace's Pokémon team. So far, Wallace doesn't have a flying Pokémon. This means that he can only apply for a flying mount from the Alliance, which is also one of the benefits of the 3rd level authority. Look, a superior level Charizard with excellent qualifications has successfully applied for it, which is approved almost instantly and for free. Of course, it is just a loan. The mission this time is to hunt down a trainer named Blood Dog Liang, who stole the treasure prism scale of our Pseudo-Poly's gym. According to intelligence, he is currently fleeing to an uninhabited island. Wallace rode on Charizard's back and used Pokédex to transmit this mission to Steven and Kuroyu. Steven asked curiously, "What kind of treasure is this prism scale? It is worth your Pseudo-Poly's gym to make such a big fuss and even issue a wanted order and reward." Wallace was choked when he heard Steven's question and could only prevaricate by saying that it was a gym secret. Kuroyu listened on the side with a gleam in his eyes. As a time traveler, Kuroyu certainly knew that prism scale is helping FANFIC's evolution becomes the key item of Melodic. However, the current Pokémon world seems to have not revealed the role of prism scale. This has led to Melodic being sought after by countless people, both for its beautiful appearance and its rarity. Although research shows that Phoebus is indeed the predecessor of Melodic, even Professor Oak has come forward to testify, but many people still don't believe that the ugly Phoebus can really evolve into Melodic. So far, the only one in the Pokémon world who can help FANFIC's evolution into Melodic is Pseudo-Poly's gym. On the internet and in real life, countless trainers have speculated on what method can make Phoebus evolution into Melodic. In fact, the truth is hidden in Pseudo-Poly's gym's actions. Pseudo-Poly's gym often secretly publishes bounties on the Alliance platform to collect various scales. Such actions, of course, cannot be hidden from the big families, who speculate whether it is related to the secret of evolution Melodic. But after Pseudo-Poly's gym purchased a badge of Horsa as a shield, everyone thought they collected scales to find Dragon Scale. After all, there are many ordinary people who are not trainers, and they often use Dragon Scale as a shield. Scale is sold as ordinary scales. Countless people and Alliance leaders thought Pseudo-Poly's gym wanted to pick up the bargain. But in fact, this is the most insidious part of Pseudo-Poly's gym. Trap within a trap. Hide the leaves in the forest. Hide the purpose under the hidden purpose. Using the collection of Dragon Scale as a shield, deceive those big families with extremely keen intelligence information, and secretly collect Prism Scale. In this way, almost all Prism Scale in the world has been collected by Pseudo-Poly's gym. Completely monopolize Melodic's evolution path. But now Pseudo-Poly's gym probably also thinks that it is Prism Scale props evolution, but what really affects Melodic evolution is beauty, Hayu thought to himself. Hayu's eyes flickered, and he had already formulated a plan that could make a lot of money. But now he can't execute it with his strength. Even if he can make a profit from it, he will definitely offend Pseudo-Poly's gym, and he can't even protect such a big profit. We still have to wait until we become stronger to make a long-term plan. We can't offend Pseudo-Poly's gym, and we have to make a profit from Melodic and Beauty. We have to hide our identity in the execution of the plan. It's not an easy task. Just when Hayu's mind was running wildly and brainstorming, Wallace saw that the two of them didn't speak, and felt a little embarrassed, so he said, "This blood dog? Liang is quite powerful, and the ace Pokémon is a quasi-elite level Houndoom, who is good at Inferno and Flamethrower. The scorching flame is difficult for even my melodic to bear. Yu just nodded lightly, and didn't think it was that powerful. Blue the orb fragments gave him great confidence when facing fire Pokemon. Although Steven nodded calmly, he was still very nervous. Most of his Pokemon were steel type, and it was difficult for him to stand up against fire type Pokemon. Fortunately, there was Black Feather. Looking forward, Black Feather, who was sitting on Han Crow's back, was a reliable figure, which made Steven feel a little relieved. Bloodhound, why does this surname sound so familiar? It's not the one from Kalos region, Steven muttered quietly. Wallace said, yes, this Bloodhound family is the one from Kalos. Then, Wallace gave Steven and Black Feather some knowledge about the Bloodhound family. The Bloodhound family is from Kalos. A powerful family with an elite in charge. It is said that this family has prospered for hundreds of years. Before Kalos was reformed and opened up, it was a prosperous family in the Kingdom era. This family is extremely cruel and allows family members to fight each other. The winner can become the heir. Although the number of members in this family is a bit sparse due to this rule, almost every generation of family heads are wise and heroic. According to this template, it is definitely a prominent family, but unfortunately, it was declared destroyed 3 years ago. The reason is that it offended the Jenny family. Bloodhound. As can be seen from the family name, the former represents their cruel internal competition system, and the latter represents the Pokemon they are good at breeding. Dog Pokemon. Since Kalos was incorporated into the Alliance map decades ago, the Jenny family naturally settled in its region. This inevitably led to conflicts with local forces, and the Bloodhound family happened to be the first to come out. The Jenny family's requirements for dog Pokemon are surprisingly high: Growlithe, Manectric, Lillipup, Poochyena, Houndour. As a result, there is another Bloodhound family and their Snatch Pokemon source. Naturally, they will suppress it with all their strength. This is the root cause of all conflicts. Chapter 319 Double Meeting. Thanks to Agarcomp who can dance dragons for the small role submission. Because it is a small role, and for the rationality of the plot, some character details can only be abandoned. Please forgive me, thank you. Everyone, if you have any small roles or Pokemon you want to submit, you can write them directly in the book review area. I also ask for a 5-star book review, please. Of course, all the above are not enough for the Jenny family to personally destroy the Bloodhound family. The Bloodhound family itself is not a vegetarian. In Kalos's the power is almost deeply rooted and intertwined. It is an extremely long process to completely integrate Kalos into the Alliance. Even after decades, there is still little effect. Many foreign forces want to join in, but they are squeezed out by the local forces of Kalos. And the Bloodhound family is supported by the local forces of Kalos, especially the nobles left over from the Kingdom period. The fuse of everything comes from Growlithe. In a forest in Kalos region, the number of Growlithe Pokemon is not large, about a dozen, but this has attracted the attention of the Jenny family. The Jenny family's monopoly on the Pokemon Growlithe has reached a crazy level. The Bloodhound family naturally wants Growlithe as well. The two sides inevitably clashed, and the final result was that although the Jenny family destroyed the Bloodhound, it also completely angered the old noble forces in Kalos. The plan to completely integrate Kalos into the Alliance was hindered. Even the Kanto Alliance headquarters, President Damalankai severely criticized the Jenny family. This is the whole story of the incident. Many details are not known to outsiders, but they can be roughly guessed, said Wallace. Yu nodded repeatedly. There are indeed many doubtful details that cannot be explained. For example, whether the Jenny family coveted the secrets of the Bloodhound family to cultivate Houndoom. For example, why did a Growlithe group appear in the Kalos region for no reason? Is it possible that the Growlithe tribe was deliberately set up by the Jenny family as a bait, using this as a fuse and excuse to destroy the Bloodhound family? Is it the huge Houndour tribe of the Bloodhound family that the Jenny family really covets? Why didn't the noble forces of Kalos provide assistance when the Bloodhound family was in trouble? Did they secretly reach some kind of agreement and exchange of interests with the Jenny family? Everything is like a mystery, and outsiders cannot know. This Bloodhound Liang once escaped on the day of the family's destruction. He stole the treasures of our pseudo-Polly's gym and wanted to use this as a threat to let us release the Bloodhound family members imprisoned in the Alliance prison. Wallace said this with almost gritted teeth. If he or Sue top from the perspective of pseudo-Polly's gym, it was completely an unprovoked disaster. Although pseudo-Polly's gym has a lot of say in the Alliance, it is difficult to influence such elite-level events. What's more, it also involves the game between the Jenny family and the region. It can only be said that the behavior of this Bloodhound Liang is really absurd and ridiculous. But Yu doesn't think so. Being able to steal treasures from the heavily guarded pseudo-Polly's gym is enough to prove that this person is not a reckless person. Could it be that he found it? An idea flashed in Yu's mind, and he felt that it was infinitely close to the truth. The three of them flew on the sea with flying Pokémon for more than 3 hours. Although there were attacks from blind marine Pokémon during the period, they were all solved. Wallace also exposed his trump card Pokémon, a superior level peak, Melodic, who was in the breakthrough period. This shocked Steven and Yu. Although level does not represent combat power, it also proves to a certain extent that Wallace is not what others call a parallel import. Han Crow flapped his wings, stirring up waves of energy, forming a milky white tail, which streaked brilliantly across the sky. Then, a silver light and a fire light followed. They were Skarmory, Steven's passenger, and Charizard, Wallace's passenger. The advantages and disadvantages of flying Pokémon can be seen from the before and after manned flight. Han Crow, who has mastered Tailwind and has been carefully cultivated, is undoubtedly the fastest. The second is Steven's Skarmory. This flying Pokémon is not good at speed, but endurance. Its strong physical strength can support it to fly for days and nights without getting tired. But the speed is a bit disappointing, lagging behind Han Crow by more than 1 level. But fortunately, with Yu's deliberate release, it can also barely keeping up with the speed. The slowest one is Wallace's Charizard. After all, he is trained by the Alliance Standard Army, so of course he can't be expected to be very good. In addition, the environment is the sea, and Charizard with fire attributes is not very adaptable, so he fell behind. The outline of the island finally appeared in the endless sea, and the 3 people of Yu successively commanded Pokémon to land. It should be here. This place is not under the jurisdiction of the Alliance, and no one has ever explored it, so this island has not been named, Wallace said gracefully after jumping off Charizard. The 3 of them are standing on a towering cliff at the moment, with the sea behind them. This position just overlooks the environment and outline of the entire island. The trees on this island are really dense, Yu said with emotion. Looking from above, more than 80% of the entire island is green. The trees here are thicker and older than any forest Yu has experienced before. A mysterious island that has never been visited by humans. The uninhabited, undeveloped island, dense vegetation, towering ancient trees, all of which represent countless resources and many unknown dangers. The 3 were not reckless people. They stayed on the towering cliff for a long time, observing the situation of the entire island. Finally, they drew a simple topographic map. However, Wallace seemed to be particularly talented in painting, while Steven's paintings were hard to describe. No, Steven, why does your painting look like a fishbone? Yu chuckled. So what? You are not much better? Steven rolled his eyes and retorted. Although Yu's painting was also rather sloppy, but at least some important terrains are shown, so people can barely understand them. Forget it, let's use Wallace's. Steven carefully examined his work and seemed to find it a bit ugly. Zorua, come out. Just before setting off, Yu released Zorua and put it on his shoulder. Zorua, wearing the focus sash item, is Yu's last life guarantee. Metang, come out. Steven also took out his trump card Pokemon, 2 shiny Metangs of different colors. Both Metangs have reached the superior level. Hey, you can only sigh, inhumane. He is just a Krypton Gold boss. Hey, you dare not imagine how much resources it would take to cultivate 2 shiny quasi-gods. And how much are the 2 quasi-gods of different colors worth? I can't even imagine it. Because there is really no precedent to refer to, quasi-gods are extremely rare, not to mention quasi-gods of different colors. Chapter 320 Noctowl. Hey, you also released Crawdaunt, and the 3 quasi-gods after the preparations were completed, they headed towards the island to search for the traces of Bloodhound Liang. Han Crow and Skarmory were scouting in the air, while Melodic was guarding in the middle, ready to use Life Dew, Aqua Ring, and other skills to assist at any time. Metang stood on the left and right of the team, using Psychic to conduct reconnaissance to prevent the sudden attack of wild Pokémon from the side. The duties of each Pokémon were extremely accurate. And under a towering tree somewhere in the forest, a young man with a gloomy temperament seemed to sense something. Looking at Zeta, who was performing future sight beside him, a trace of trance flashed in Bloodhound Liang's bloodshot eyes. Is it finally here? Bloodhound Liang stopped the already weak Zeta. It had performed countless future sights in these days. Sight skill is used. The psychic energy in the body has been exhausted. Zeta is good at psychic attributes. If it were any other Pokémon, it would have been dizzy or even regressed due to the exhaustion of spiritual energy. Bloodhound Liang clenched a luxury ball, which contained his ace Pokémon, Houndoom, which reached the quasi-elite level. Ha, then let's make a big fuss and let you experience the taste of Inferno. Blood Dog Liang's eyes burst out with undisguised hatred and madness, and it seemed that there was a raging fire like Inferno in his eyes. When Heiyu and the other 2 passed through a small forest, they were relatively safe, and no Pokémon attacked them during the period. The Pokémon here seemed to have very weak attacking tendencies, but instead looked gentle. Even if the 3 accidentally broke into the territory of a Caesar, the Caesar did not drive them away. Under normal circumstances, this would be unthinkable. It should be that the resources here are too abundant, so there is no need to fight for them, and they can be easily obtained, so the Pokémons don't have a high desire to fight. Heiyu combined what he saw and heard along the way, and after a simple thought, he got conclusion. As he walked along, he could feel the richness of the energy here, far exceeding that of a normal forest. Some wild resources were also extremely rich, and the 3 even found a sapling of sand scale fruit here. It was a pity that the fruit had been picked. It made the 3 feel sorry for a while, although the 3 of them could get dozens of such fruits every year from the Alliance. It could be that each Pokémon had at least one, and there would be no shortage. But no one would complain about having too many treasures of this level. This fruit tree is intact, and it was almost not damaged when it was picked. It is obviously not the work of wild Pokémon. Wallace looked around and said. Heiyu and Steven nodded, agreeing very much. If I guessed correctly, this sand scale fruit should have been picked by Bloodhound Liang. It's just that the other party was very cautious, and all traces of human presence were cleared along the way, and no footprints or traces of survival could be detected. But this island is so small, I want to see where he can hide. Wallace snorted coldly, making the elegant Prince of Waters so angry. It can be seen that Bloodhound Liang offended Wallace and the pseudo-police forces behind him. It also made Heiyu more certain of his psychological guess that a single prism scale would obviously not cause such a big fight between Pseudo-Poly's gym and the Pseudo-Poly's family. This Bloodhound Liang must have discovered the secret of melodic evolution and used this secret as a threat to negotiate with the Pseudo-Poly's forces, Heiyu thought to himself. Otherwise, it was just a prism scale item. With the size of the Pseudo-Poly's family and Pseudo-Poly's gym, they would not care at all. Almost all prism scales in the Pokémon world were collected by the Pseudo-Poly's forces. Not to mention that there were thousands of them, there were at least hundreds of them. Just one prism scale, how could it be possible to let Wallace, the heir appointed by Pseudo-Poly's gym, hunt him down? Of course, this secret was hidden in Heiyu's heart. It is not good for me to tell the secret of melodic evolution. On the contrary, it will offend the pseudo-police forces behind Wallace. As for benefiting the world and contributing to the scientific research community, this kind of false glory and reputation has long been thrown out of Heiyu's mind and he doesn't care at all. He only cares about practical interests. The three continued to explore forward and soon passed through the forest and came to a towering tree. This tree is high enough to rank in the top 10 on the island, and reaching this towering tree also means officially entering the core of the island. Just when Hankro and Skarmory flew over the towering tree, they were suddenly attacked. It was a superior level Noctowl. Be careful, although Noctowl is a general flying attribute, it can master many psychic attribute moves, especially pay attention to its hypnosis, Heiyu reminded cautiously. Stephen and Wallace responded with a serious look. There are too many unknown things on this island, and they can't be careless. Sure enough, this Noctowl is really difficult to deal with, and only engages in air combat with Hankro and Skarmory. Always maintains a very high flying altitude, not allowing Crawdaunt, Melodic, and Metang below to take advantage of it. And successively use skills such as Hypnosis, Confusion, Reflect, Extrasensory. Very annoying. But fortunately, although Stephen Skarmory was beaten by psychic moves and fled, Hankro with Heiyu's evil attribute was not affected at all. No matter what psychic attribute you have, a sucker punch, plus wing attack, easily solved. Is the move Hankro used just now a combination move? Wallace asked in surprise. Heiyu smiled and said, it's a combination of wing attack and night slash. It's just a startup and I'm not proficient yet. Although Heiyu said so, Stephen and Wallace just thought he was being modest. After all, combination moves are a fighting method that can only be explored at the quasi-elite level. Even the two of them haven't tried it yet, and they are in a state of confusion. I didn't expect that Heiyu would secretly improve behind his back. Stephen looked at Heiyu's confident smile and couldn't help feeling a little resentful. Although they easily solved the Noctowl that blocked their way, the three did not relax, because in the next half an hour, several wild Pokémon attacked them one after another. This is completely different from the situation when they first went to the island to explore, and it can even be said to be completely opposite. The Pokémon on the island should be lazy and lazy, why did they suddenly become so aggressive? There was something strange everywhere. After defeating another Victreebel that blocked the way, he finally found something unusual. Heiyu squatted down, looked at the unconscious Victreebel, sniffed it gently, and said, all these Pokémon have been given a drug that seems to stimulate their inner aggressiveness and amplify the rage emotions in Pokémon. After hearing this, Wallace and Stephen both showed solemn expressions. Chapter 321 Reversal Tactics. Just as the three were still discussing the various abnormal events that had occurred, a spark of fire suddenly appeared in the corner of the island and gradually spread to the forest. This flame seemed to be released by a Pokémon, and it spread extremely quickly. In just a few minutes, it burned from the edge of the island to the core forest. Heiyu took Victreebel's blood with a solemn face and prepared to conduct an examination, but suddenly found something wrong. Why do I feel a burnt smell in the air? Stephen and Wallace also noticed it. Hankro and Skarmory burst into sharp calls at this time, and kept gesturing to the distance. Gaga. Heiyu and the other two looked into the distance, and saw a bright red color suddenly appearing in the sight blocked by the dense jungle. Fire! Big fire! A raging fire! Heiyu looked around and found that the fires in the four directions of southeast, northwest, and northeast were all spreading towards the towering tree where they were. It seemed that someone was controlling all this. This flame looks so familiar. It's the flamethrower of Houndoom, Wallace exclaimed. It was the bloodhound Liang who was behind the scenes. The three people who reacted hurriedly climbed onto the back of the flying Pokémon and wanted to fly away from here. However, just as they were about to take off, a gloomy man in black walked out from the corner, looking at the three people in panic in the air, with a fierce smile on his lips. Houndoom, flamethrower! A hellhound beside him suddenly jumped out. The blood-colored flames carried the scorching burning and surged towards the three people in the sky. A pillar of fire that shot up into the sky instantly disrupted the three people's flight escape plan. They had no choice but to land. At the same time, they also saw the real enemy they were chasing this time, the only fugitive of the Bloodhound family, Bloodhound Liang. He Yu looked at the man not far away, and his first impression was gloomy, and the whole person exuded a cold breath. But what was more eye-catching was the Houndoom next to him, who was like a hellhound, with sharp fangs and a ferocious expression. He lowered his body slightly, took a fighting posture, and roared, resounding through the heavens and earth. Crawdaunt, melodic, rain dance. He Yu and Wallace gave the order at the same time. The dark clouds in the sky gathered quickly, and the dark clouds quickly covered the sun. The raindrops fell quickly, and the rain continued to expand. The whole island has now turned into a fire island. The dense vegetation and trees on this island naturally promote the spread of the flames. So far, except for the central area of the towering trees where He Yu and his friends are, the rest of the island has been ravaged by flames. Bloodhound Liang is willing to destroy the island to create a venue suitable for fire attribute Pokemon to fight. He Yu and his friends certainly can't do as they wish. Wallace volunteered to go to the forest to put out the flames first, and He Yu and Steven will hold the front battlefield first. After all, if the entire island really becomes a fire island, then this environment is extremely unfavorable for them. Be careful of the flames released by Houndoom. The temperature is extremely high, and you will be hurt by its scorching temperature if you are not careful. Even water attribute Pokemon is no exception. Wallace whispered before leaving. As Wallace, who has fought with him head-on and experienced the attacks of Houndoom, Flamethrower and Inferno, he undoubtedly has more say. Even his water attribute Melodic can hardly withstand it. That Inferno attack. Don't worry, Crawdaunt will take care of the rain here, and you can go and put out the fire on the whole island. He Yu nodded in response. Although the number of Pokemon was superior at the moment, he still released Sharpedo and Umbreon. Although He Yu had defeated Quasi-Elites several times before. But you have to know that there is a gap between Quasi-Elites. The last mercenary killer Raticate and the Houndoom in front of him, who was born in an elite family and was trained by the Corps, are simply a world of difference. He Yu estimated in his heart that this Houndoom might be able to easily deal with the last Raticate in 1 minute. But they are not bad either, they always have the advantage of the number of Pokemon, and they are also trained by big families. The only thing they are behind is the level of Pokemon. But this can be compensated by quantity. However, there are two aspects that make He Yu more afraid. The first is Houndoom's nasty plot skill, the second is its ignition property. Ignition, when attacked by fire attribute, absorb flames, and the fire attribute moves you use will become stronger. A simple battle strategy emerged in He Yu's mind. Sharpedo, Water Jet. Honchkrow, Tailwind, everyone bless. If it were a normal Pokemon, maybe Taunt could be used, but Houndoom is a dark attribute and naturally it won't work. However, as long as Sharpedo's extremely fast speed is used for harassment, Houndoom will not be willing to strengthen. After all, the learning difficulty of Nasty Plot is not low, and it takes at least 2 or 3 seconds to perform. Houndoom, Flamethrower. As an Earl Dervish Pokemon that has been cultivated since childhood, Bloodhound Liang is very clear about the advantages of his Pokemon. Thinking about the ignition points that he secretly arranged on the entire island, it won't be long before he can enjoy the roasting of Inferno. And he can't help but emit a crazy laugh. He he he. Come out, Squid King, hold those 2 metangs. Looking at Houndoom, who was outnumbered, Bloodhound Liang released another quasi-elite Pokemon. It was Squid King with psychic and evil attributes. The attribute combination of this Pokemon is almost perfect, with only a 4 times weak bug and a 2 times weak demon. At this time when the fairy type has not yet appeared, it can be said that it only has a bug-type weakness. Houndoom, overheat. Squid King, use inversion on Houndoom. Inversion, invert all the changes in the opponent's abilities, turning them into the opposite state. Houndoom directly used the overheat skill, which almost represents the ceiling of the fire-type special attack power. However, the price of its huge power is that it will enter a period of exhaustion after use, and at the same time, its own special attack ability will be greatly reduced. But if it is combined with the inversion skill, everything will be different. Houndoom, whose special attack originally decreased, actually increased after the Squid King used inversion. Note, similar to singing the opposite tune, but it is performed on others, not on oneself. The three people of Kuruba obviously did not expect this, and the joy that Houndoom's special attack ability decreased because of resisting overheating instantly dissipated. Sure enough, those who can reach the quasi-elite have their own set of tactics. And none of them are simple. Know whether it was the mercenary man's clumsy lapunny tactics last time or this time's reverse tactics, they all opened Heiyu's eyes. These experiences all told Heiyu that this world is full of talented people and talented people. In each region, between the underworld and the white world, there are shining stars and peaks everywhere. And the most important thing is that the Squid King is also evil and is not restricted by taunt at all. For a while, the three of them seemed a little passive. The raindrops in the sky fell on the faces of several people, feeling the scorching temperature emanating from the burning forest not far away. Chapter 322 Fire Blast, Triple Surf. No, it stands to reason that the fire should have been extinguished long ago. Why is it still burning? Heiyu suddenly responded. Heiyu's crawdaunt maintained the rainfall in the center of the battlefield, and Wallace and Melodic had already run around the forest to put out the fire. But why did the flames around not dissipate, but instead burned more and more vigorously? Bloodhound Liang, you arsonist, you have no humanity. Wallace emerged from the bushes with a dusty face and angrily cursed Bloodhound Liang not far away. Black Feather Stephen hurriedly asked what happened. Wallace then told the reason. Just now he left the battlefield to put out the fires on the island. At the beginning, it was going smoothly. But when he and Melodic just put out a fire, not long after leaving, the fire started again at that place. They went back and forth several times. Continuously put out, and then continue to burn. Wallace came to his senses and found something wrong. Finally, he caught the mastermind behind the scenes. It turned out to be a Talonflame secretly setting the forest on fire. The most important thing is that the level of the Talonflame is also quasi-elite. Wallace and Melodic can't catch up with it, and they may not be able to beat it. There is no doubt that the Talonflame was the work of Bloodhound Liang. When Bloodhound Liang heard Wallace's angry curse, he laughed angrily. Ha ha ha, it's ridiculous. Your alliance is so hypocritical that you let the Jenny family attack our Bloodhound family. Why didn't you talk about humanity at that time? There are more than 1,000 people in our family, but the alliance didn't even let go of women and children. And the chief of the Yanchuan clan is an elite strongman, but you actually took him as a prisoner. Bloodhound Liang's roar was mixed with the explosion of the Pokémon's combat skills. At this moment, Houndoom on the battlefield has become a demon from hell. Relying on nasty plot and the inversion tactics, it has completed several enhancements, and its own special attack has been fully maxed out. Houndoom jumps into the flames and absorbs all the flames of the entire island into his body. Bloodhound Liang felt the scorching temperature around him and thought that it would not be long before he could defeat the three Black Feathers and negotiate with the alliance as hostages. Then he could rescue the leader of their Bloodhound family. Houndoom's body was like a dark void, absorbing all the fire energy and flames on the entire island, and his fire-inducing properties were pushed to the extreme at this moment. Sharpedo, Crawdaunt, Water Jet. Metang, Miracle Eye, Psychic. Miracle Eye, a move that has no effect on evil attribute Pokémon and opponents with a very high dodge rate, which can be hit after use. Melodic uses Hydro Pump. Although the rainfall in the area slightly affected Houndoom's fire-starting properties, the quasi-elite Pokémon's control over energy is still there. The flame particles that condensed into substance were sucked into Houndoom's body, and strands of black flames overflowed from the surface of his body. Flamethrower. Blood Dog Liang gave an order. A line of fire blazed across the sky, and the extremely violent flamethrower, like sweeping a plow, went straight through the entire forest. The land along the way was scorched, the trees in the forest were directly pierced, and even the water in the air was evaporated by this temperature. A road of ash from the center of the island to the sea appeared in front of everyone. This power! The three people of Heiyu were shocked. This attack of flamethrower easily shattered all the skills of the three Pokémon. The flamethrower used by Houndoom at this moment is probably not weaker than that of elite Pokémon, right? The special attack was maxed out, and the fire-inducing property was activated. The three of them no longer held back, and released all their Pokémon. Wallace naturally released all the water attribute Pokémon Starmie, Ludicolo, and Melodic, all of which were the best in the superior class. Most of the Pokémon released by Steven were of steel and rock attributes, but one of them caught Kuroyu's attention. It turned out to be a quasi-elite Claydol. It seemed that this was the mysterious psychic quasi-elite Pokémon that Steven had just captured when he completed the Alliance mission. Kuroyu and the other two deployed their Pokémon formations one by one. Bloodhound Liang knew that he couldn't delay any longer, although his Houndoom was extremely powerful at the moment. However, such a large increase in strength resulted in a rapid consumption of physical strength. It was necessary to fight quickly. Houndoom, Fire Blast! Houndoom gathered the power and moved the flame in his mouth. As a big word was spit out, the blazing flames of brilliant flames burst out. This big word of flame, with overwhelming momentum, rushed towards them. Triple Surf Wallace gave an order. Countless streams of water appeared under the feet of Melodic, Starmie, and Ludicolo in an instant. With the continuous rainfall in the venue, a huge wave was formed in almost the blink of an eye. Rush towards Fire Blast, the surging wave rushed towards them. Steven was naturally not idle either. Two Metangs and a quasi-elite Claydol were using Psychic to try to weaken the power of Fire Blast. Unfortunately, the effect was minimal, but it did reduce the speed of Fire Blast to some extent. Sharpedo kept rushing around with the acceleration feature, and the water flow gathered all over his body, like a cannonball, aiming directly at Bloodhound Liang. However, the Squid King who was protecting him was not a vegetarian. Electric threads shot out from the sky, and the powerful Thunderbolt Thunder Shock appeared around Sharpedo, and connected directly to Sharpedo's body along with the raindrops. Although the rain at this moment weakened Houndoom's fire attribute attack, it also became the best helper for Thunderbolt to hit. Thunderbolt, keep bombarding! Lightning flashed on the Squid King's body, and the current gathered into restless thunder, turning into thunder snakes, bombarding Sharpedo, who was scorched and numb all over. When Heiyu saw this scene, he had no choice but to use the Pokeball to take Sharpedo back first. After enduring two thunderbolts in a row, they were performed by quasi-elite Pokémon. If it were a normal water attribute, the superior Pokémon would have died countless times. But fortunately, there was blue orb fragments. Black Feather doesn't need to worry, just rest for a while. Sharpedo can recover from his injuries and resurrect with full blood. On the other side, the huge big-shaped explosion and the surging triple surf have collided like two meteors. At this moment, it seemed as if the whole island was shaking. When the scorching flames and the surging waves fiercely tackle together, a short and sharp humming sound suddenly sounded in the air. Then, a series of crackling sounds suddenly broke out, and the flames and water began to stalemate with each other, entangled and intertwined with each other. Layers of waves continued to surge, like thousands of troops galloping, rushing towards the raging flames with their teeth and claws, trying to extinguish them in one fell swoop. Houndoom did not show weakness, and continued to spit out flames, giving Fire Blast increased its power, doing its best to resist the invasion of the tide. Where water and fire intersected, a cloud of water was stirred up, and the water vapor was like smoke and fog, filling the air. The water vapor rose up quickly and drifted to the sky above the island. From a distance, it seemed as if a white sea of clouds covered the entire island, giving people a dreamlike feeling. Chapter 323 Inferno Island. Crawdaunt, use the most powerful crab claw hammer. Hayu saw the opportunity. He ordered Crawdaunt, who had performed Swords Dance and Dragon Dance several times, to activate the blue orb fragments in her body. The burns on her body caused by the blazing fire were directly covered by green fluorescent particles, and she was intact in an instant. And this opportunity was seized at the right time. Just as the two sides were fighting each other around Surf and Fire Blast in the center of the battlefield. The fierce-eyed Crawdaunt had already taken advantage of the rain and the water on the ground, and stepped out with the speed increased by Dragon Dance. At an extremely fast speed, he rushed towards Bloodhound Liang. "Ha, you think my Squid King is a vegetarian? Use Thunderbolt." Bloodhound Liang had just defeated a Sharpedo who tried to sneak attack and kill him, and seeing another lobster rushing towards him, he was naturally full of ridicule. The Squid King's eyes flickered slightly, and with the shining golden light, a lightning intertwined by Psychic and Thunderbolt suddenly appeared, aiming at the running Crawdaunt. When under the helping hand of the rainy environment, the thunder fell with a bang. But just before the thunder hit Crawdaunt, Protect was instantly cast. At the moment of blocking Thunderbolt, the water jet was quickly connected and rushed to the front of the Squid King in the blink of an eye. The huge claws raised the water flow and gathered it, smashing it down without hesitation. The crab claw hammer directly hit the Squid King by surprise. At this moment, Crawdaunt, whose various amplifications have been fully pulled, has a very powerful crab claw hammer. The most important thing is that the crab claw hammer skill has a first-level probability of critical strike, which is triggered again at the critical moment. But do you think it's over? Crawdaunt swung its two pairs of claws across each other, hitting the body of the Squid King with its claws again, and occasionally connecting with skills such as X-Scissor to restrain the Squid King. It caused the Squid King to suffer an extremely painful blow. Even though there was Psychic attached to the surface, the piercing pain still resounded through his heart. The situation changed so quickly that Bloodhound Liang's face changed again and again, especially when he saw Crawdaunt's fierce eyes glancing at him. There was also a flash of madness in his bloodshot eyes. "You forced me to do Zeta." Teleport. Bloodhound Liang released a Zeta that looked not very good. Hayu, who was not far away, instantly understood his intention. He wanted to use teleport to escape. Among all the psychic Pokémon, the Ralts family, Native family, and Abra family are the best at using teleport. Only these three races can learn teleport through bloodline evolution or leveling up naturally. Sure enough, Bloodhound Liang's figure instantly disappeared from the spot. "Ha ha ha ha, enjoy the Inferno Island I set up." A arrogant and mocking voice came from the towering tree. The three Hayu looked up. Only seeing that Houndoom, who was fighting with their Pokémon in the field, was also teleported to the top of the towering tree. As his voice fell, Houndoom beside him performed Inferno, and the cold black fire poured out of Houndoom's mouth like a waterfall. The dark prairie fire spread instantly, and the rolling flames directly evaporated all the rain in the field, turning it into white water vapor. Combined with the flames that were already burning on the island. Inferno skills. Inferno fire, burning the sky and boiling the sea. At this moment, the whole island was burning with flames. There was no clear place. The whole island turned into an Inferno fire island. This island, like a paradise, was completely destroyed. It was filled with the wailing of wild Pokémon and the inferno that seemed to come from the flames of hell. Bloodhound Liang, who was wrapped in Zeta Psychic and flying in the sky, looked at the island below that had been completely buried in the sea of fire and the three people who had disappeared. Although he felt happy, he couldn't help but feel a little sorry. It's a pity that they died like this. These three people must be the geniuses that the Alliance has focused on training. If they can be held hostage, there may be a chance to replace the clan leader who is imprisoned in prison. Bloodhound Liang took on the strange cocoon that the clan leader gave him before he left, and the words that he must revitalize the family. At that time, the clan leader's tone seemed to be explaining his last wish. Alliance, Jenny family, what are you waiting for me? How is it possible? Just as Bloodhound Liang gnashed his teeth and vowed to take revenge on the Alliance, 3 huge monsters suddenly flew out from the island that had turned into inferno below. Each of the huge monsters exuded amazing power. Just by swimming, even the space was distorted, as if the world was shaking. Elite Pokémon? Bloodhound Liang muttered in disbelief with empty eyes. Hayu rode on Gyarados' back and looked at Wallace and Steven, who also released elite-level Pokémon with a strange look. 3 people, you look at me, I look at you. Just now, when the whole island was steaming with flames, the 3 people took out a luxury ball. They all released 3 elite-level protective Pokémon. Kuroyu's Gyarados, Wallace's Melodic, Steven's Metagross. Wallace's Melodic was obviously a circle larger than his own Melodic, and even more beautiful when looked at carefully. Steven's Metagross was suspended in the air by Psychic. Although it was a little less handsome than Steven's future Metagross, the final evolution of the Quasi-God still made Kuroyu and Wallace look sideways. You guys! All 3 of them spoke at the same time, but were too embarrassed to say anything else. It turned out that the passionate battle between the 3 of them just now was not as good as a protective Pokémon. As Gyarados soared casually, several dark clouds appeared instantly, and the rain dance skill was activated instantly. In an instant, heavy rain fell on the entire island. Such a large rainfall range made Hayu open his mouth, and at the same time, he was thinking in his mind when Crawdaunt could train rain dance to such a level. Metagross, use Psychic directly to control the Zatu and the man in front. Steven patted Metagross under his butt gently. As one of his father's trump card Pokémon, Steven gave the order without hesitation. And in the air in front, the Bloodhound Liang, who was suspended by Psychic, was directly frozen with a trembling expression. He never thought that the 3 children in front of him could actually release 3 elite-level Pokémon. Why? Why? They are just 3 league trainers, not even at the quasi-elite level, so why can they release 3 elite Pokémon? You should know that only the patriarch of their family has an elite Pokémon. His brain suddenly crashed and he didn't react. Seeing that danger was coming in the next second, Blood Dog Liang roared unwillingly, "No, you can't kill me, otherwise the secret of melodic evolution will be made public, and the whole world will know the lies you made up by Pseudo-Poly's gym." Chapter 324 Dimensionality Attack. Hayu thought to himself, as expected. Steven didn't understand what Blood Dog Liang was talking about. Melodic, rush up and use Aqua Tail. Wallace's face changed, and he commanded the protective Pokémon Elite Melodic given to him by his family to kill Bloodhound Liang directly. Don't look at Wallace's gentle appearance, and he is even called the Prince of Water. But once the interests of the Pseudo-Poly's family or Pseudo-Poly's gym are touched, he is also a decisive killer. Or in other words, no heir trained by a family like Wallace will be merciful. No, you can't kill me. As long as I die, the Pokémon League's website forum will be flooded with methods of Phoebe's evolution melodic, and the secrets that your Pseudo-Poly's family has concealed for thousands of years will be completely made public. Bloodhound Liang looked at the beautiful scene revealed by Melodic's twisting body as he approached, and was not moved at all. At this moment, his heart was cold and terrified. Melodic twisted his body gracefully, and his tail wrapped in colorful scales swung gently, and a water knife slashed down directly. Although Bloodhound Liang tried his best to command Pokémon to launch a counterattack, Zeta released endless psychic attribute energy, and blood even flowed in his eyes. This was the backlash after overusing Psychic. Houndoom was also suspended in the air under the wrapping of Psychic, releasing the strongest Inferno skill in his life. But even so, even if Bloodhound Liang released all his means, he could not withstand the blow of Elite Melodic. A blow of Aquatail swept the Squid King and Houndoom down, and with a splash, they sank directly to the bottom of the sea. Even though Melodic was not good at attacking but assisting, he was able to completely crush them with only his elite-level body and energy. A complete dimensionality reduction attack. Bloodhound Liang released countless low-level Pokémon as a one-time shield to buy time for escape. Metagross, chase with Psychic, Meteor Mash. Steven commanded from Skarmory. Metagross was wrapped in pink Psychic and turned teleport at an extremely fast speed. A silver meteor streaked across the sea level, as if it was about to break through the sky. Just when Bloodhound Liang looked ashen, a loud eagle cry resounded over the sea. Lily. A Talonflame wrapped in energy flames rushed from a distance, and the red crown feathers on its head dragged a long flame trail. The tailwind under the gale wings feature cooperated with the accelerating flame charge. Talonflame's speed at this moment has far exceeded the quasi-elite level. In almost the blink of an eye, he rushed towards the Bloodhound Liang, who was suspended in the air by Zeta's Psychic. And a pair of powerful eagle claws tightly grasped the Bloodhound Liang's arm, and the gaps between his wings spewed ember. Fleeing away in a flash. Zeta looked at his master, who had gone far away. A sense of peace flashed through his heart, and he remembered the warmth when he was hatched. Looking at the three people who were staring at him, his eyes revealed a trace of determination. Zeta's eyes were completely broken, countless bloodstains flowed out, and the psychic load was turned to the maximum, trying his best to buy time for his master, Blood Dog Liang, to escape. Gyarados, Storm. The heavy fog directly shattered the psychic barrier, and Zeta's body was directly blasted into pieces. The Bloodhound Liang, who was not far away, looked back and saw that Zeta, who he had hatched and raised, had sacrificed his life to cover his retreat. He was even more heartbroken. But as the heir of the Bloodhound family, he did not show a sad expression because he had been trained to kill decisively in an environment of internal competition since he was a child. Alliance, I will fight you to the death. Bloodhound Liang's face was gloomy, and a cold killing intent was revealed in his narrow eyes. He commanded Talonflame to constantly avoid the psychic attacks of Metagross in the back, relying on Gale Tailwind skill under Wings feature. Each time was dangerous, and he dodged the skill just before it hit. Metagross, full power, bullet punch, Steven said confidently. Metagross used several teleports in a row, dodged and blocked the escape route, then raised his huge Aurabug arm and bullet punched directly. Talonflame had to protect his trainer from harm while using various fire attribute moves to fight back and gain time to escape. Swish, swish, swish. Several streams of light rushed across the sea. Metagross. Magnet Bomb. Steven wanted to use the strong magnetic force of Magnet Bomb to delay Talonflame's flight. Although they were elite-level Pokémon, the three Pokémon were not good at flying and could not catch up with Tailwind Talonflame under Gale Wings. The speed of using flying attribute skills was too fast. Facing several huge magnetic iron blocks behind, Talonflame, under the command of Bloodhound Liang, used agility one after another. With a few flashes, he changed direction and easily avoided the magnet bomb. Bloodhound Liang looked back at Steven and Wallace, who were chasing him, as well as Metagross and Melodic beside them. Where is the black-haired boy riding Gyarados? Did he return to the island to put out the Inferno Flame? Bloodhound Liang felt a little confused, but didn't take it to heart. He continued to command Talonflame to use agility, quick attack, tailwind, and other skills to escape. But suddenly, Bloodhound Liang thought of a terrible fact and hurriedly commanded Talonflame to turn around and escape. But it was too late. Steven and Wallace listened to the plan arranged by Hayu on the intercom and looked under the calm sea surface. Right below Bloodhound Liang and Talonflame, the originally calm sea surface suddenly boiled, and the turbulent waves continued to stir up ripples. Puff! A huge blue flying dragon jumped out of the sea. Gyarados directly raised its huge tail fin, and Aquatail directly blocked the escape route. Gyarados actually took a shortcut from the bottom of the sea. In fact, Hayu could have directly commanded Gyarados to kill Bloodhound Liang, but after all, the Alliance mission said to arrest him. Heyu had to suppress his killing intent and asked Gyarados to hold back a little to prevent accidentally killing the opponent. Melodic, rush over and use Aqua Tail. Wallace was overjoyed when he saw this and directly commanded the Pokémon to attack. Melodic twisted Attract's body on the sea surface, posing in elegant posture, and the huge fins flashed with the light of colorful scales. He raised his tail and swept it directly downward. Both the person and the Pokémon burst into blood in the air. Lily, even in the last second before death, Talonflame did not think of abandoning his trainer. The unyielding will burned in his pupils, burning the last bit of kinetic energy in his body, and the flames drifted from the gaps in his feathers. He tried to buy his trainer another second of life. Unfortunately, countless broken limbs and arms fell directly to the sea level. Even the quasi-elite Talonflame couldn't withstand Melodic's tail, let alone the human-like Bloodhound Liang. In the end, he didn't even say his last words, and not even a trace of his body was left. Bloodhound Liang, the last hope of the Kalos Bloodhound family, was completely buried in the sea. After dealing with the enemy, Melodic was like slapping a fly to death, without any feeling, and even his expression did not fluctuate. Chapter 325. I hope you will become a good person. Heyu said, Gyarados, please put out the fire on the island and call the Alliance team over. The Alliance team was called for this island that had turned to ashes, because the entire island was burned bare by Houndoom's inferno, so that there was no living wild Pokémon. But this was also easier to explore, although all the resources on the ground disappeared completely, buried in the sea of fire of inferno. But underground there must be mineral veins on the surface. It is the easiest to develop such an island, because there is no harassment from wild Pokémon, and there is no trouble with complex terrain. I didn't expect that there would be so many Pokémon willing to sacrifice their lives to save the evil wanted criminal like Bloodhound Liang, Wallace said with a sigh. Stephen also agreed with Wallace's words and felt very strange and surprised about this matter. But Heyu didn't think so. He had seen too much darkness and corruption from climbing from a small pirate to today. He had seen too many hypocritical people who gave their true hearts. He had also seen too many people who used the name of justice to package evil. Wolf in sheep's clothing? Sheep in wolf's clothing? Sometimes light and darkness are only in a moment, and sometimes you can only be forced to wear a mask. Evil? Hee. Where is there absolute justice and evil? Is the Alliance necessarily just? Is Bloodhound Liang necessarily evil? The Alliance turned a blind eye to the Jenny family's thunder strike to destroy the Bloodhound family. They even colluded with each other in secret to devour the Bloodhound family's resource points. In order to rescue the tribe members imprisoned in prison, Bloodhound Liang risked his life to steal treasures and spent a lot of effort to plan, just to exchange for a chance to negotiate. People in the Alliance who represent justice will definitely be good to Pokémon. The black organization that represents evil will definitely abuse Pokémon and treat Pokémon badly. Countless mocking questions emerged in Heiyu's heart. Everything can only be attributed to one sentence. In fact, there is no justice or evil in this world, it's just a different standpoint. The Alliance that claims to be just may not be all bright. The terrifying dark underground organization may not be all bad people. Just as there is always a shadow of darkness under the sun, light and darkness coexist in one. As long as there is light, there will be darkness. Although Heyu and Bloodhound Liang are on opposite sides, it does not prevent him from admiring each other. Houndoom, Zaitu, Talonflame. Each of Bloodhound Liang's Pokémon is willing to sacrifice their lives for him, and in times of crisis, they burst out with Pokémon bonds that even many people in the Alliance do not have. In the name of good. I hope you can really be a good person in your next life, Heyu thought silently in his heart. I didn't expect that today a person wanted by the Alliance would make me admire him for a rare moment. After sighing for a while, Heyu came back to his senses. A space ring slowly floated in front of the three people under the control of Metagross Psychic. In addition, there are several Pokeball, without a doubt, these are all the relics of Blood Dog Liang. But Stephen and Hayu were not interested in these spoils at the moment, because of what Blood Dog Liang said just now about the secret of melodic evolution. It made the two curious, and they all looked at Wallace with strange eyes. After all, Wallace's actions just now were really a bit of an attempt to cover up. The mission was marked as arrest, but Wallace directly ordered Melodic to kill. Even Stephen and Hayu didn't have time to say anything to stop it. And Wallace's eyes dodged, as if he was deliberately avoiding this topic. Without giving Stephen and Hayu the opportunity to continue asking questions, Wallace directly tested all the Pokeballs. And said, "These the Pokemon in the ball are of relatively low levels. They may be Pokemon of Bloodhound Liang's second tier. They may be caught in the wild and prepared to be sold. Obviously, although Bloodhound Liang is the heir of the elite family, he is not the kind of flower stand built by resources. He can fight 3 people alone and deal with Stephen, Hayu, and Wallace at the same time. Although he has the advantage of level, he is at a disadvantage in terms of number, which has proved the excellence of Bloodhound Liang. It's a pity that the dimensionality reduction attack from 3 elite-level Pokemon has completely killed this excellent family heir." The 3 people landed back on the island that has turned to ashes. The ground of the entire island is bare, without a trace of green, only grey ashes. Begin to sort out the spoils. There are not many things in Bloodhound Liang's space ring, but it is very neatly organized, not as messy as the space equipment of ordinary people. It is in line with the behavior of a family heir. Don't before the children of those big families are all those who are spoiled by eating, drinking, playing, whoring and gambling. Although there are such spoiled second-generation children, most of them are collateral branches and the direct descendants who are useless and make people feel disappointed. The family disciples who are truly regarded as core children or even heirs by the family are extremely excellent in all aspects, whether in words and deeds, IQ, EQ, Pokemon cultivation, and there are no shortcomings. Otherwise, it will be like in novels, where there is a prodigal son in this family and a fool in that family all day long. How can those families last for 100 years or even it's been 1,000 years? The more powerful the family, the more attention it pays to the training of the next generation of heirs, and even regards it as the family's top priority. This is the Houndoom Training Manual. It is an unabridged version that only the direct descendants of the Bloodhound family can get. I remember that the Jenny family has been coveting this for a long time, and even offered the price of a quasi-god to buy it. Stephen turned out a manual with a cover of a blood-red strange flame and muttered. Then, each of the 3 copied a copy. Wallace took out a bottle of dark flames and said, "This should be a Chand will-o-wisp left by Allure before his death, judging from the energy fluctuations, should be at the elite level before his death, most likely a treasure from the Bloodhound family's treasure house." Treasures were gradually opened one by one. It must be said that being trained as an heir by the Bloodhound family, Bloodhound Liang really accumulated a lot of good things. Any treasure can be sold for tens of millions on the Alliance platform, and even more expensive on the black market. However, Stephen and Wallace are obviously not interested in this. For the 2 people from wealthy families, money is just a string of numbers. What really matters are those precious resources that cannot be exchanged for money. For example, Stephen selected a main material for making rare props from the spoils. Wallace chose a confusion bead with psychic attributes, which contains rich psychic attribute abilities. It should be for his Starmie. Hayu took the sand scale fruit, which was the one on the sand scale fruit tree that they encountered on the island. As expected, it was taken away by the Blood Dog Liang. Chapter 326 Cocoon of Destruction. After opening them one by one, there were only 2 boxes left. Open the first one, and there was a prism scale shining with colorful light. "Wallace, this should be the prism scale that your Jim lost, right?" Hayu said. The surface of this colorful scale emits a faint fluorescence, which looks very soft. Under the sunlight, it will shine with colorful rainbow light. Wallace silently put this prism scale into his space equipment. This was the ultimate goal of his trip. Stephen saw the scale being treated so seriously. Combined with the information that Blood Dog Liang said before he died, he had some guesses in his mind and lowered his head in thought. Open the last box. A black block-shaped object similar to a cocoon came into view. This cocoon was covered with black patterns, with 3 protruding sharp objects on the top, and wisps of black mist emerged from the surface. The most important thing is that this cocoon does not seem to be a dead object. It is like a heart, beating. It looks very scary and weird, which makes people shudder. When Yu saw this familiar, he subconsciously reached out his hand to touch the item, and the sharp protrusion instantly cut his finger, and a trace of blood dripped into the cocoon. In an instant, the surrounding environment changed drastically, and Yu seemed to be dragged into a different space. Here, he saw a forest full of devastation and corpses. A big black bird flew by, its body flashing with a strange red light, full of dark destructive aura, and instantly swept the entire forest. All the animals and plants were sucked of their vitality and turned into grey stone sculptures. From the perspective of God, Yu immediately recognized this strange black bird, which was Yveltal, the legendary one who possessed various magical powers such as death, destruction, darkness, and destruction. Just when the whole world was about to fall into ruin, a colorful rainbow light passed by not far away. A Pokémon with colorful giant horns and X-shaped pupils, resembling a deer, suddenly appeared. It was Xerneas, the legendary ruler of the Law of Life. Xerneas looked at Yveltal in the sky, and colorful spots emanated from the surface of his body, and an aura full of life also emanated from it. The dark aura full of destructive aura and the fairy aura full of life confronted each other. Then, the two legendary Pokémon started an endless war, and both sides suffered losses. Xerneas used up all his strength to purify all the damaged creatures in the forest, releasing all his life force. Xerneas turned into a colorful tree without leaves and fell into a deep sleep. Yveltal also turned into a grey cocoon, exuding a destructive aura. Just when Yu was still trembling, a scream suddenly woke him up, and all the scenes in front of him were directly shattered like a lens. The surrounding environment was turned back to the deserted Inferno Island. Stephen and Wallace beside him said with concern, Yu, what happened to you just now? You looked dazed and couldn't be woken up no matter how much I called you. Yu took a deep look at the cocoon of destruction in front of him. I'm fine, but this treasure seems to be related to evil attributes. Yu didn't directly say that this treasure is worthless or something. Stephen and Wallace are not fools. Can the Blood Dog Liang, the heir of the elite family, is so last resort, definitely not a simple treasure. Wallace chuckled and said, originally, I invited you two to help with this mission. In terms of the distribution of spoils, of course you two should take the lion's share, and I won't participate. Stephen also added, this treasure is obviously related to the evil attribute, which doesn't match my team. Aren't you a specialist in evil attributes, Yu? Of course this trophy belongs to you. Yu looked at Stephen with sincerity, and he didn't show any emotion on the surface, but he was already very excited in his heart. At worst, I can collect some beautiful stones for Stephen in the future, Yu said in his heart. He calmly handed over the legendary Yveltal. The dormant cocoon of destruction was collected. However, a trace of doubt flashed through his mind. The cocoon of destruction in his previous life's animation was very large, at least the size of a small Western-style building. And the one in front of him was probably only the size of a human head. Although he had doubts, this problem was obviously not something that Yu could figure out now, so he could only suppress it temporarily. Leave it for later investigation. There was no dispute during the process of the three people distributing the spoils. After the distribution was completed in a friendly manner, they stayed on this Inferno Island and quietly waited for the arrival of the team sent by the Alliance. Inferno Island was also the name given to this island by the three people together, an island that was scorched by Inferno. It's very appropriate, isn't it? What the three people didn't know was that the Alliance had already exploded at this moment, and almost all online forums were filled with a message. The secret of melodic evolution. Countless anonymous accounts came out and released the key to Phoebe's evolution: melodic, prism scale. At first, many people didn't believe it, thinking it was just a lie to attract attention, but as more and more data and even videos were exposed, the entire Pokemon World network was in an uproar. Especially when more and more evidence showed that Pseudo-Poly's gym had been deceiving the world and privately collected almost all the prism scales on the market at extremely low prices. They even discovered the key to Phoebe's evolution hundreds of years ago, but they have been hiding it until now. Public opinion overwhelmingly pressed Pseudo-Poly's gym. There were even many victims who came out to say that they had just sold prism scales some time ago. Scale was sold as an ordinary fish scale. It can be said that they regretted it so much. Of course, more trainers just watched the fun. After all, it was obvious that someone was behind it, maybe a hostile family of the Pseudo-Poly's forces. But whether it was eating melons or gambling, there was no exception. From then on, the Pokemon world had another magical evolution. Phoebus, the recognized ugliest Pokemon, can use prism scale to evolve into the legendary most beautiful Pokemon melodic. The value of prism scale also skyrocketed. From a piece of scale that no one cared about, it skyrocketed to a prop worth tens of millions. In the black market, some people even offered a price of more than 30 million Alliance coins just to buy a prism scale. After all, melodic is so attractive, not only because of its beautiful appearance, but more because of its rarity. If you want to say how good-looking melodic is, it is not necessarily. There are many Pokemon that are as good-looking as melodic, or even better-looking than melodic. Gardevoir, Florges, Serpentine are all very popular and extremely outstanding Pokemon. But in the annual Pokemon League Forum selection, melodic has won the title of most beautiful Pokemon for countless sessions. The reason is that it is too rare. Except for Pseudo-Poly's gym, you can hardly see any in the outside world. As the saying goes, what you can't get is always in turmoil. Because it is rarer than the quasi-god, melodic's popularity is almost leading by a cliff. However, it is foreseeable that with Phoebe's evolution, the key to melodic is exposed, and in the future, it is estimated that there will be a large number of prism scale evolutions melodic. By then, melodic, who has lost his rare aura, I wonder if he can still be loved by the majority of trainers. Chapter 327: Drake's Sailing Team. When the team sent by the Alliance arrived at Inferno Island, the three Black Feathers explained the whole story at once and completely entrusted the place to the resource mining team. The Alliance will certainly not be stingy with rewards for discovering such an unknown island. However, the specific amount depends on the underground mineral resources. After completing the task happily, the three Black Feathers prepared to leave. But Wallace wondered why everyone looked at him a little strangely. The three of them were chatting and laughing in the sky above the sea while riding on a flying Pokemon. After this mission, the relationship between the three of them was obviously closer. Especially Wallace, who felt that he had already integrated into Steven and Heiyu's small circle. It's getting dark, let's find a small island nearby to land and wait until dawn before setting off again, Heiyu suggested. This opinion was recognized by both Wallace and Steven. Although the ocean at night is not as turbulent as during the day, there are more dangerous things hidden under the calm sea surface. But just when the three of them were eyeing a small island, a few dots of light suddenly flashed on the sea not far away. As the light kept getting closer, the three of them gradually saw the outline, which turned out to be a sailing fleet consisting of more than a dozen sailing ships. The Alliance logo was hung on the top of the sail. The three of them looked at each other, and their eyes were obviously brightened. Great, it's the Alliance's sailing ship. In this way, we don't have to sleep outdoors, Steven said in surprise. The three of them commanded the flying Pokemon to move forward. At the same time, the crew on the ship also discovered the presence of the three. The ship of this sailing team is not like the modern cruise ship Chansey invested and built by the Joy family where Heiyu had been before. It is a bit like the ancient wooden sailing ship with a long history. There are still large and small scratches on the hull, which should be left by the attack of underwater Pokémon. However, these wooden ships are relatively small in size, and they can't be compared with the huge cruise ship of the Joy family. But even so, it is not a problem to have dozens or even hundreds of people standing on the deck. After the three people from Heiyu showed the Alliance logo, they were not stopped at all, and the flying Pokémon easily landed on the deck. At this moment, a white-bearded old man in captain's uniform walked out of the crowd. Although he was wearing standard captain's uniform, he did not button it up, and he did not wear lining inside, exposing his strong chest muscles directly to the air. The three people from Heiyu even saw a lot of scars on his abdomen. The old man did not care at all, smoking a cigarette in one hand, and strode towards Heiyu, looking very domineering. Heiyu looked at the captain, and when he saw this familiar old face, a name suddenly popped up in his head. Drake? One of the 4 current elites of the Hone Alliance, a dragon-type elite Drake stood on the deck, looking at the 3 young men who suddenly appeared, and the 3 Pokémons behind them, Honchkrow, Skarmory, and Charizard. Well, I remember you. Are you on the last list of level 3 promotions? Drake seemed to remember the identities of the 3 people and said. Heiyu immediately said, yes, Drake Elite. We met you through a video conference in the conference room of the Alliance headquarters. I wonder if you still have any impression of it. Drake took a puff of his cigarette and puffed out smoke. At the same time, he waved his hand to disperse the crew members who were watching and signaled to continue doing his own things. Heiyu then added, we have just completed the Alliance's mission and are preparing to return to the Alliance headquarters, Evergrande City, but it's getting late. I want to find a place to camp, and your sailing team just happened to show up, so I want to stay for one night. Stephen and Wallace also added, we don't mean anything else, if we disturb you, we can leave. Drake continued to walk in front of the 3 people, 2 meters tall, strong body, coupled with his domineering temperament, pressed the 3 people to breathe. It doesn't matter, you are fighting for the future of the Alliance, it's not a disturbance. Stay here today, there are still many empty rooms on the cabin. Drake is a serious person in the eyes of outsiders. But he is wholeheartedly trying to make the Alliance flourish. As long as it is for the good of the Alliance, Drake will do his best to do it. Not to mention, Heiyu and the other 2 are the hope of the next generation of the Hone Alliance. The 3 bowed to the elite who worked hard for the Alliance, and then, under the guidance of the crew, entered the cabin. When leaving the deck, Heiyu subconsciously looked back and met Drake Elite's indifferent eyes. Just now, Drake Elite's eyes seemed to stay on me the longest. Heiyu muttered to himself, I don't know if it's my illusion. The only time I had any contact with Drake Elite was when they attacked Team Rocket. HQ, I looked at him from afar in the dark. The rest were only seen through the video in the meeting held by the Alliance. Drake Elite looked at Heiyu's back and murmured, you are not from a family like me, but you are much luckier than me. You are appreciated by Sydney and Joy family. I hope you can go further than me in the future. Drake looked at Heiyu and inexplicably remembered that when he was young, he was as ambitious and loyal as Heiyu. It's just that he went through twists and turns and accumulated a lot of experience in middle age. And Heiyu is like a bright star passing by, illuminating the Hone Alliance, and is a star of tomorrow. As an older 4th elite, Drake, like the old people in the Alliance, is concerned about the development of the Alliance and pays more attention to the next generation of talents in the Alliance. Among them, the one with the highest voice is naturally Stephen from the Stone family. Heiyu is among them. Although he has fewer supporters, but it is very special. Because Heiyu is the only one who is not from a family, he has attracted the attention of many big guys like Drake who have climbed up from the bottom step by step. Heiyu and the other 2 were taken to the empty cabin rooms one after another. The rooms between the 3 people are adjacent to each other. There is no sign of human habitation inside, but it is extremely clean, as if someone has been cleaning all year round. I didn't expect to meet Drake here. What is this, a chance encounter with a walking elite? Yu sat on the bed and smiled to himself. He has met all the 3 seats and 4 elites currently in the Hone Alliance. Dark Elite Sydney, who he met in the Pokemon Battle Club in Greentown. In Movely the Ice Elite, Bonnie, that I had seen in the food court of City. And this time, the Dragon Elite, Drake. Yu then began to recall Drake's information. As an elite, he was good at the extremely rare and domineering dragon attribute. His trump card Pokemon was the quasi-god, Salamence. Last time at Team Rocket HQ, Drake's Salamence suppressed Archer's 2 elite Pokemon and dozens of quasi-elite Pokemon, which shows how powerful he is. Xiaoxia's fan group has been established. Welcome all readers to join the group. Click on Xiaoxia's Tomato novel homepage and enter directly. Chapter 328 Froki. The score is over 9, celebrate with flowers. Remind those who didn't join the group yesterday, Xiaoxia's fan group is in the Tomato software, not QQ or WeChat. You can enter it by clicking on the author's homepage. Rejecting the food sent by the cabin chef, Yu took out the homemade grill. Eating sizzling barbecue on the sea, looking at the scenery floating on the sea, facing the sea breeze, isn't it beautiful? Well, in fact, there is no scenery at all. It was pitch black outside. If it weren't for the night lights hanging outside the hull, the visibility would probably not exceed 10 meters. But what surprised Yu was that although these dozen ships were all made of wood, they abnormally hard. It has experienced several strong winds and waves, as well as Pokemon attacks, and almost no problems have occurred. And the crew members who can join Drake's 4 elite sailing team are not easy to deal with. Not only are they experienced in sailing, but they are also very strong. There are no trainers below the superior level. Even Kuroyu saw several crew members releasing quasi-elite Pokemon to resist attacks. It can be said that the configuration of this sailing team will never be second in the entire Pokemon world. The only team that can compete with it is probably Team Aqua. But everything is good. The only thing that makes Kuroyu more annoyed and criticized is that the whole cabin is filled with a stinky smell, most likely the smell of sweat. After all, there are more than a dozen ships and hundreds of people in the entire sailing team, but there is no woman. It can only be said that men of the sea like to wander on the sea and are not close to women, right? After all, Drake is so old, and he doesn't even have a wife. Just as Yu was eating barbecue, drinking moo-moo milk, and enjoying the tranquility of the night, the Froki egg in the space ring suddenly shook violently after coming into contact with the cocoon of destruction. Yu suddenly sensed something and hurriedly explored the space ring. He took out Froka's incubator and found that the estimated hatching time of more than 10 days was reduced in just a few seconds. The estimated hatching time was less than half an hour. Yu was caught off guard. In theory, Pokemon should be hatched in the constant temperature hatching room of the Alliance, so that it is absolutely safe, and even allows the newly born Pokemon to enjoy some enhancement in qualifications. The constant temperature room of the Pokemon Alliance headquarters can be automatically adjusted to transform into an environment similar to a volcanic ocean. The air is filled with specially made spices, which are very beneficial to the newborn Pokemon. The sea is the sea, at least the water attribute energy is not thin, and fortunately I have prepared it. Yu took out a few pieces of debris from the space ring. These are made of evil gems and water gems, 2 types of mineral vein gems crushed together. The purity of these gems is the highest, all of which were exchanged by Yu with Alliance points. Yu put these fragments into the input port of the incubator. After a few seconds, with the humming sound of the incubator, rich evil and water attribute energies appeared in the internal space of the incubator. After a few minutes, these energies were too dense and there was no outlet to evacuate, so they almost formed substance, and grains of energy were visible to the naked eye. Particles floated in the incubator. After absorbing a lot of energy, the sky blue Pokemon egg finally moved and shook gently twice. It seemed to be responding to Yu's call. Isn't this energy enough? The little guy is really greedy. Tisk, he's quite picky. He only absorbs the energy of evil attributes, right? The evil attribute energy in the incubator was absorbed by the Pokemon egg, and a lot of water attributes remained. Heiyu looked at the gently shaking Pokemon egg, and the original unpreparedness and nervousness were swept away. Strange, how could the expected hatching date of more than 10 days suddenly be advanced to half an hour? Could it be the cocoon of destruction? The only change that Heiyu could think of was the cocoon of destruction stored in the space ring during the day. He could only sigh that it was worthy of being the mythical beast Yveltal. Just by turning into a cocoon, he could have such a miracle. It can even affect the ecological mode of Pokemon. Heiyu cleaned the room briefly and prepared all measures before hatching. Time passed by minute by minute. Heiyu stared at the sky blue Pokemon egg inside. As the shaking became more and more intense, a crack appeared on the surface of the eggshell. Heiyu took a deep breath. It would be a lie to say that he was not nervous. If it was just a simple Pokemon hatching, with Heiyu's current experience and courage, there would be almost no emotional changes. However, when he thought of the two possible situations of Froka that Joy Chun told him, he couldn't help but worry. One is that it has a genetic disease, and the other is that it has been infected with the breath of some powerful Pokemon or precious treasure. Heiyu could only pray silently in his heart that it was not the first one. Quack! As the cracks in the eggshell gradually spread, a soft growl sound came out. A Froka with skin that was different from the normal Froka, which was lighter blue and even a little white, appeared. Heiyu's eyes shrank suddenly, because this was not a skin disease at all. It's not because of the powerful treasure. It's because of the shiny color. Froki opened his ignorant eyes, looked at Heiyu curiously, raised his soft white hands, and crawled to Heiyu step by step. Quack! She cried out in surprise, with a hint of intimacy in her softness. Heiyu came back to his senses from the huge surprise, looked at Froki in front of him, and said, "Little guy, do you think of me as your parent?" Froka tilted his head, and a trace of doubt flashed in his yellow pupils. He didn't understand what his mother was talking about. Except for a few exceptions, most newly born Pokemon will regard the creature they see at first sight as their parents. This is why many people do not choose to capture them in the wild, but hatch them themselves. Because this can ensure the absolute loyalty of Pokemon. Heiyu immediately took out the prepared talent potion, as well as various water and evil attribute nutrients. Froka happily enjoyed the food brought by her mother, gulped down the talent potion, and narrowed her eyes. Gwa burp. Lying in Heiyu's arms, Froka burped and looked extremely lazy. Heiyu docilely wiped the mucus off Froka's body and said, "Ha ha ha, Froka, why are you still so picky about food? You only eat evil attributed ones, and you have to eat water attributed ones too." Although Froka was a little reluctant, he naturally followed the instructions of his mother. He swallowed the remaining water attributed nutrients all at once, and soon fell asleep in Heiyu's arms. Heiyu used the instrument to check Froka's whole body from inside to outside again, and only breathed a sigh of relief after confirming that he had no skin or genetic diseases. "Froka, are you willing to be my Pokemon?" Heiyu looked at Froka, who had fallen asleep, and whispered softly. "If you don't say anything, I will take it as your consent." Heiyu took out a luxury ball that he had prepared long ago and tapped it gently on the head of the unconscious Froka. Ding dong! Chapter 329, Champion's Appearance. Take out Pokemon Pokemonedex, shrink the luxury ball containing Froki and put it in the back. Beep beep. Froki, a bubble frog Pokemon, emits bubbles from the chest and back to block attacks with elastic bubbles, reducing damage. Level 1, Gender, Male, Attribute, Water, Characteristics, Torrent, Height 0.3 meters, Weight 7 kilograms, Shiny color, Extremely superior talent, has absorbed unknown dark energy in the body, dark talent is off the charts, and has the appearance of a champion. Mastered moves, Pound, Growl. Inherited moves, power-up punch, toxic spikes, heart's eye, camouflage. Hei-Yu looked at the evaluation given by Pokédex, especially the 4 words champion's posture, and couldn't come back to his senses for a long time. Qualification is just a stepping stone, more still depends on acquired cultivation and training, Hei-Yu said to himself without arrogance. But, this dark energy. Is it the cocoon of destruction? That night, Hei-Yu slept soundly. I don't know if it was because he was too tired from chasing the bloodhound Liang and drifting on the sea, or because he was in a good mood because of Froca's hatching. But the feeling of drifting on the sea is still good, because it can make Hei-Yu recall a familiar feeling. Opening the window, the sea breeze blew into the room, and Hei-Yu sniffed the salty smell. Good morning, everyone. Hei-Yu walked out of the room, and the crew members he met along the way, even if they didn't know him, smiled and greeted him. This made many crew members have a good impression of Hei-Yu. After asking several crew members in succession, Hei-Yu finally found the captain's room where Drake was. Steven, Drake Elite, good morning. Compared to the sweat smell on the cabin outside, it was much cleaner inside, but it was still filled with a strong smell of alcohol and cigarettes. Hei-Yu didn't show any uncomfortable expression, which made Drake looked at him again. Because both Steven and Wallace were obviously not used to the smell when they came in, and they seemed very restrained on the boat. In comparison, Hei-Yu was much more free and easy. In Drake's opinion, compared with those pampered children of big families, although Hei-Yu was weaker in family background, with this temperament, he could go further in the future. Hey, where's Wallace? Hasn't he gotten up yet? Hei-Yu asked curiously. Steven held back his laughter and said, Hei-Yu, don't you know yet? You can check the current online forums. Hei-Yu looked through the Pokédex with a strange look on his face. Sure enough, there were overwhelming news about Phoebe's evolution melodic. After a day of fermentation, it had already set the entire Pokémon world on fire. Many people have successfully used Prism Scale, let Phoebe's evolution into melodic, and transmitted the video and photos to the internet. Therefore, the Pseudo-Polys family and Jim are now under overwhelming pressure from public opinion. Hehe, Wallace was just picked up by the people sent by their family. Steven felt funny when he thought of Wallace's bitter face when he just got up in the morning. Wallace, who is gentle and elegant, worshipped by countless girls and called the Prince of Water, also showed such an embarrassed expression. Hei-Yu looked at the news on the Pokédex with a complicated expression. Melodic's evolution has been exposed, so how far is it from the fairy system? What are you two whispering about? Drake extinguished the cigarette in his hand and opened the window to feel the sea breeze. Hei-Yu and Steven sat up quickly. The man in front of them is the legendary Dragon Elite 4, known as the man closest to the champion in the Hone Alliance. Haha, don't be so nervous. Are you two interested in a battle? Drake asked. He was really curious about the quality of the current young generation of the Alliance. Hei-Yu and Steven can be said to be the representatives of the current young generation of the Hone Alliance. Testing their strength can probably understand the strength of the current young generation of the Hone Alliance. Drake is very concerned about the fresh blood of the Hone Alliance. Hei-Yu's eyes lit up when he heard Drake's proposal, and he agreed with excitement. Hei-Yu was still very excited to get the guidance of a fourth elite. Steven saw that Hei-Yu agreed, so he could only make a bitter face and was forced to work. The strength of the Dragon Elite 4 is absolutely unquestionable. Let alone sending a second team, even a third team of Hei-Yu may not be able to beat them. Therefore, Drake explained the strength of the Pokémon sent out, and whether it would be comparable to Hei-Yu's Pokémon are of similar levels. Knowing that Captain Drake was going to fight, except for some who had to stay at their posts, the rest of the crew came to watch the battle. The deck was cleared, and countless people gathered outside the fence, talking among themselves. Hei-Yu, I hope this game will allow me to see the true strength of the younger generation of the Hone Alliance. If they can't meet my standards, it can only mean that the Alliance's standards for selecting talents are too poor. Drake's expression gradually became serious. Yu took a deep breath. Fighting against a dragon-type elite is really stressful. The entire deck is made of a special audiobook material. It is a battlefield that meets the standards of the Alliance competition and can withstand the explosion of the highest quasi-elite level. It's decided to be you, Krokorok. Yu threw a luxury ball as the Krokorok that has reached level 39 and is about to evolve. After a lot of resources have been invested in this period of time, Krokorok has been upgraded to another level. Now there is only one level left before the 40th level evolution. It is most appropriate to break through with a hearty battle. Drake looked at the carefully cultivated Krokorok and nodded secretly in his heart. With his eyes, he could certainly see that this Krokorok was cultivated quite well. It's just that the level is a bit low. However, according to the information, it is not the main Pokémon of this little guy. Considering the age of 17 of Kuroyu, Drake did not criticize the level. Without hesitation, he also threw a luxury ball, and a Pokémon wrapped in a milky white shell was released and stepped heavily on the deck. Shelgon. The Pokémon released by Drake is the second stage of Quasi-God, Bagon's evolution type, the predecessor of Salamence, Shelgon. Yu couldn't help showing envy. He had seen Quasi-God several times so far. He didn't know when he would have one. Shelgon was surrounded by a white shell, with only his eyes and limbs exposed, but the aura emanating from his body made him look full of fighting spirit. Its body was covered with something like bones, divided into 6 petals of similar size that wrapped Shelgon completely, and 3 of the petals had raised patterns. Shelgon lurked in the depths of the cave motionlessly, waiting for evolution without eating or drinking, dreaming of the day when he would fly into the sky. Chapter 330 Shelgon. Shelgon has a shell as hard as iron, which can bounce back enemy attacks. Combined with the second stage physical defense racial value, it can reach 100. The Quasi-God has already begun to show its prowess. However, Shelgon also has an obvious weakness. Because the shell is very heavy, it moves slowly. Inside the hard shell, cells are changing at an explosive speed and forming a new body, accumulating energy for the body to evolve bigger. It is said that when it uses up the accumulated energy, it will begin to evolve, and the shell will peel off at the moment of evolution. At the same time, it will grow blood moon wings and become a true Salamenki. This child is the offspring of my ace Salamence, and is about to enter the stage of energy reserve evolution. Today is the last battle in the Shelgon stage, Drake said with a smile. He signaled Yu to take the first shot. As a senior, he certainly couldn't rush to attack. Yu judged that Shelgon's level should also be close to the superior level, and he was secretly relieved. He shouted, "Krokorok, fight with all your strength, this should also be your last battle in the Krokorok stage. Go all out." Sandstorm Krokorok waved his crocodile claws and opened his ferocious crocodile mouth. The dark brown energy kept flowing around him. The surface of the body is boiling. Sand gradually forms on the deck, and the area around Krokorok gradually expands. In just a few seconds, yellow sand is flying all over the sky. When Yu saw this scene, his mouth curled up slightly. Krokorok is indeed a person who has taken the Earth Vein Stone Milk Potion, and his control of energy has almost reached the level of perfection. It has not been long since he mastered the Sandstorm skill, but he can already use it skillfully. Yu's eyes are fixed on Shelgon not far away. The reason why he chose the Sandstorm skill to start with, in addition to the field enhancement for Krokorok, is more to test Shelgon's characteristics. Shelgon has 2 characteristics in total. The first is the conventional characteristic Rockhead, the other is a hidden feature, Dustproof. Shelgon was facing the yellow sand, twisting his body irritably, trying to disperse the annoying sand. This Shelgon has the Rockhead feature. Yu reacted in an instant. Because if it is the Dustproof feature, it will not be damaged by sandstorm or hail, as long as it is similar powder-type attacks can be ignored. Now that we have figured out Shelgon's characteristics, we have a little advantage in intelligence. Shelgon, Dragon Rage. Krokorok, Hone Claws, Assurance. Although Shelgon was harassed by Sandstorm, it was hardly hurt by its strong shell. Standing still, the mouth hidden under the shell began to gather dragon energy. And a strange blue-purple light ball with manic energy spewed out. Rushed towards Krokorok. Krokorok felt the yellow sand all around him, and felt comfortable all over. He quickly polished his claws. Dark energy permeated Krokorok's claws, and he opened and closed them, directly smashing Dragon Rage. The energy exploded, causing the sand on the deck to fly everywhere. Shelgon, Dragon Pulse. Drake's expression gradually became serious, because its purpose was to ensure the minimum respect no matter who it was fighting with. You can't deal with your opponent with a sloppy attitude. It must be said that Drake really knows Shelgon, a Pokemon, very well. He knows that it is very slow, so he just stands there and keeps using long-range skills to output. Shelgon continues to condense dragon attribute energy, and a deep purple dragon dances freely in the yellow sand. And with overwhelming force, it dives down towards Krokorok. Hei-Yu looked at the mighty dragon. Pulse commanded calmly, use the quicksand abyss and cooperate with the sandstorm in the field to resist directly. Krokorok looked at the flying dragon above. Not only did he not show the slightest cowardice, but he became more excited. A pair of crocodile claws slammed the ground. In an instant, a sandstorm abyss formed by dark yellow sand formed in the field, and it was wrapped with the existing sandstorm weather. A giant sandstorm twister appeared on the deck. Facing the dragon pulse that hit him brazenly, Krokorok controlled the giant sand twister. The two collided with each other. At the beginning, the sandstorm was indeed difficult to resist Dragon Pulse, but with the subsequent energy replenishment, the power of Pulse was gradually worn away, and finally dissipated into the air. The remaining dragon energy disappeared in the sandstorm. Drake saw this scene and praised, Krokorok's sandstorm is good. It seems that he has a good talent in energy control. Shelgon's body surface was filled with dragon energy, and his whole body was shaken. All the annoying fine yellow sands could not get close, and were shattered by the ripples formed by the dragon energy on the surface. Obviously, Shelgon saw his trainer and praised other Pokemon. N was a little jealous, and showed his energy control method. Drake understood Shelgon's meaning, and on his serious face that never changed, a helpless and doting expression was rarely revealed. Hei-Yu was shocked by Shelgon's energy control method, and his whole body was covered with dragon ripples, and he kept resisting the invasion of yellow sand. It is worthy of being a dragon elite Pokemon. Drake is indeed unique in cultivating dragon Pokemon. Shelgon, Draco Meteor. Drake's order surprised Kuroyu. Draco Meteor is a powerful special attack skill of the dragon type. Shelgon can only learn it through others' teaching, and cannot learn it by itself through blood. And this Shelgon can use Draco Meteor without even reaching the superior level? Shelgon's limbs were slightly bent, and he crouched down, and suddenly jumped up. Shelgon, who has always been labeled as clumsy and slow, can actually jump so high? Kuroyu understood the purpose of the jump in an instant, which is to speed up the release of Draco Meteor. After using the normal Draco Meteor, it is necessary to eject the energy light ball into the sky, and then it will scatter and become meteorites. But now jumping into the air at once saves almost half of the time. Krokorok, don't be afraid, Stone Edge resists, and Protect is used as the last barrier. Hei-Yu looked at the meteor that was slowly falling from the sky. He was surprised by its terrifying power. Hei-Yu was not surprised by how powerful it was. After all, he had experienced the battle of elite Pokemon more than once. Hei-Yu was really surprised by a high-level Pokemon, can actually use Draco Meteor, and it can be so powerful. And compared to the Draco Meteor used by Flygon when he was promoted to Squadron Leader in Team Rocket HQ, it was messy. After the Draco meteor used by Shelgon scattered in the air, each meteorite seemed to be focused on hitting a target. The landing point of each meteorite was calculated, either blocking the escape route or directly hitting accurately. Obviously, Shelgon's proficiency in Draco meteor is not ordinary high, and he must have undergone special training. Draco meteor directly points to the tiny Krokorok below.